Chapter 382. There was a small dining table in the corner. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing sat opposite each other. Mu Qing looked up at the waiter and said with a smile, "Go and arrange it." "Okay." The waiter responded respectfully and turned to leave quickly. Qin Feiyang glanced at the hall. There were 50 to 60 tables in the hall, but they were all crowded at the moment. Most of them were young people. Some of them were whispering to each other. Some were teasing each other and laughing. There were also some young men and women sitting together whispering sweet nothings to each other, but they didn't do anything too out of line. The people here are basically here to take part in the Pill Pagoda's assessment. Brother Su should be here too, right? Mu Qing was holding a cup of water, drinking while smiling. Qin Feiyang asked in confusion, "What is the Pill Pagoda's assessment?" Mu Qing suddenly spat out the water he had just drunk. Qin Feiyang was sitting opposite him, and he was sprayed all over. Immediately, Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. This guy did it on purpose, didn't he? But he found that Mu Shui was also looking at him with a shocked face. I'm sorry. Mu Qing quivered and came back to his senses. He hurriedly grabbed the towel on the table, stood up, and apologized while wiping the water stains on Qin Feiyang's body in a panic. "It's okay, I'll do it myself." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said with a smile. He grabbed the towel, wiped it a few times, and was about to wipe the water stains on his face. But before he got close, a smell of oil entered his nostrils. It was also at this moment. Mu Shui stared and hurriedly said, "Brother Su, wait, that's a rag for wiping the table. It's very dirty." Rag. Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback. He took a closer look and found that it was indeed a rag. There were obvious oil stains on it. What bad luck! Qin Feiyang was quite angry and threw away the linen cloth. At the same time, Mu Qing was also stunned and hurriedly said, "Brother Su, his face was full of embarrassment. "Brother, you're really too much. Don't you know how to look at it clearly before taking it?" "Big brother Su, use this." Mu Shui chided Mu Qing. Then he took out a white handkerchief and handed it to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang was also not polite. He directly grabbed the handkerchief and wiped the water stains on his face. On the handkerchief, there was a unique fragrance of a woman. "It smells good." Qin Feiyang looked down and saw a blooming snow lotus embroidered on the handkerchief. Beside it was Mu Shui's name. This handkerchief probably meant something to Mu Shui. Otherwise he wouldn't have embroidered his name on it. Qin Feiyang handed over the handkerchief and said with a smile, "I'm sorry for dirtying your handkerchief." "It's all right." Mu Shui shook her head and smiled, appearing gentle and polite. Mu Qing forced a smile and said, "I should be the one apologizing." Qin Feiyang said, "I was wondering why Brother Mu would have such a big reaction." Mu Qing smiled bitterly and said, "Brother Su, if it were anyone else, they would have such a big reaction after hearing what you said just now." Qin Feiyang frowned slightly. Seeing this, Mu Qing smiled and said, "It seems that Brother Su really doesn't know about the Pill Pagoda's assessment. Then Brother Su should know about the Pill Pagoda, right?" Qin Feiyang shook his head. The brother and sister were stunned again. He didn't even know about the Pill Pagoda. Wasn't this person too ignorant? "This is my first time in Sky Thunder City. I've been cultivating in the mountains before, so I don't know much about the outside world." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. The brother and sister revealed a look of realization. Mu Qing smiled and said, "Brother Su, this Pill Pagoda is very famous." Qin Feiyang said, "I'd like to hear the details." Mu Qing was about to speak, but at this moment, the waiter walked over with 5 or 6 side dishes and 2 pots of good wine. "Please enjoy." After putting down the dishes, the waiter turned and left. Mu Qing picked up a wine pot and said with a smile, "Brother Su, let's talk while drinking." Soon, Qin Feiyang learned from the brother and sister that the ancient tower located in the center of the city was the Pill Pagoda. The Pill Pagoda was actually a place for alchemy, but in the eyes of the world, the Pill Pagoda was a supreme holy land for alchemy. Even the super tribes would do everything they could to send their disciples into the Pill Pagoda. Qin Feiyang was a little curious and asked, "What's so great about the Pill Pagoda?" Of course it's great. Because in the Pill Pagoda, not only are there various pill formulas, There is also a 6th grade pill fire. Mu Qing laughed. 6th grade pill fire. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. Could it be the flame of heavenly thunder? He said calmly. I wonder if Brother Mu knows the name of that pill fire? This is not a secret. The people of the nearby tribes basically know about it. That pill fire is called the flame of heavenly thunder. You should have noticed that the temperature inside the city is completely different from outside the city. Actually, this is the credit of the flame of heavenly thunder. Mu Qing smiled. I finally found you, flame of heavenly thunder. Qin Feiyang muttered secretly and asked with a smile. You siblings are also here to participate in the Pill Pagoda's assessment. Mu Qing nodded. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, So you are all alchemists. Sorry for the disrespect. Brother Su is too polite. We only know a little about it. For the assessment, we have no confidence at all. Brother Su, I wonder if you are an alchemist? Mu Shuer smiled. Qin Feiyang said, Like you, I know a little about it. The brother and sister looked at each other, both quite surprised. An 18-year-old 7-star battle monarch was already very frightening. They didn't expect him to know alchemy. How many secrets did this person have that no one knew? Mu Qing's eyes flashed and said with a smile, Since Brother Su is also an alchemist, why don't we participate in the Pill Pagoda's assessment together, so that we can take care of each other? Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and nodded. Of course I have to try such a good opportunity. He didn't dare to inquire about anything else, because he realized that the brother and sister were not simple. If they noticed something, it would be bad. When it was almost midnight, the brother and sister went upstairs to rest. Qin Feiyang sat alone at the dining table with his head lowered, and didn't say anything. Although he didn't ask Mu Qing and Mu Qing anything else, the discussions of others allowed him to learn a lot of information. The first was the situation in Sky Thunder City. Sky Thunder City was the same as White Fox City. It didn't belong to any tribe, and was an independent existence. But no one dared to behave atrociously here. Even those super tribes didn't dare to be presumptuous in Sky Thunder City. The reason was that the Pill Pagoda's pagoda master was a super expert. But this person's name, appearance and true cultivation level, not many people knew. Similarly, this person also possessed the flame of heavenly thunder. In other words, if you want to obtain the flame of heavenly thunder, you must first find out the details of this person. The second was the situation of the various super tribes. In this area, there were a total of 3 super tribes. They were the Purple Sun tribe, the Black Tortoise tribe, and the Bright King tribe. The leaders of the 3 tribes were all 9-star battle emperors. And this time, people from the 3 tribes would also come for the Pill Pagoda's assessment. Of course, these things had nothing to do with him. But there was one thing that he was very concerned about. The large and small tribes in the vicinity basically all had alchemy fires. The 3 super tribes each had a 3rd-grade alchemy fire. This made him feel very inconceivable. He couldn't help but start to doubt again. Could it be that alchemy fires in the Forgotten Land had really spread all over the streets? But this was a good opportunity. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He got up and was about to turn around and leave. Suddenly, he noticed that Mu Shuer's handkerchief was left on the table. Qin Feiyang hesitated for a moment, grabbed the handkerchief, and directly put it into his arms. I'll give it to her after dawn. Then he strode out of the restaurant. The streets in the middle of the night were silent. He looked around and walked towards the city gate. At the same time, there was a half-closed window on the 5th floor. Mu Qing and his sister stood behind the window, looking at Qin Feiyang's back, their eyes flashing with an inexplicable light. Brother, this person is a bit mysterious. We'd better not have too much contact with him, so as not to ruin things. Mu Shuer whispered. Mu Qing smiled and said, Don't worry, I know what to do. Go and rest. Mu Shuer nodded and turned to leave the room. Su Ping. Interesting. Mu Qing muttered to himself, the corner of his mouth slightly raised, pursing a touch of playfulness. A moment later, Qin Feiyang came to the city gate. Little brother, why are you going out of the city so late? The 2 city guards looked at him suspiciously. The Pill Pagoda's assessment is imminent. I'm a little nervous and can't sleep, So I'm going to the deep mountains to find fierce beasts to practice and ease my mood. Qin Feiyang smiled. So that's the case. Don't be nervous. Although the Pill Pagoda's entrance assessment is very strict, as long as you have the ability, it's not difficult to enter. The mountains near Sky Thunder City are very dangerous. You'd better not go. The two said. Thank you for your reminder. But I won't go deep. I'll just stroll around the edge. By the way, I wonder if the two brothers know the location of the 3 super tribes? One of them was puzzled and said, I know, why are you asking this? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, I have long heard of the great names of the 3 super tribes. I want to pay them a visit after the test is over. Visit. The two looked at each other and couldn't help but shake their heads and laugh. Not just anyone can go to the 3 super tribes. If you're not afraid of being rejected, we'll tell you the coordinates. The two smiled and said, Thank you, 2 brothers. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and thanked them. After getting the coordinates, Qin Feiyang chatted with the two for a while, and then walked towards the mountains ahead. In the process of chatting, he learned from the two that the 3 super tribes were located in different directions, and they were very far from Sky Thunder City. Even a warlord would need at least half a year to rush there. The attitude of the 2 guards was also beyond his expectations. He had been to quite a number of cities. Basically, the city guards of every city were arrogant, conceited, and unreasonable. And these two were very kind. Chapter 383. After entering the mountains, Qin Feiyang opened a portal. In the next moment, he landed in front of a frozen lake. The night was as dark as ink. He could not even see his own fingers. On the other side of the frozen lake, there was a very bright fire. It was a super large tribe. It was almost as big as Sky Thunder City. But the difference was that the tribe was built with wooden buildings. There were no walls around it, only fences that were 10 feet tall. Through the fire, he could see clearly that there were 2 middle-aged men guarding the gate of the tribe. The aura they exuded was very strong. They were 9-star battle kings. Above the gate, there were 3 bold words. Mingwang tribe. Qin Feiyang looked at the Mingwang tribe, his eyes flickering. He came here for the 3rd-grade alchemy fire of the Mingwang tribe. Now that he had the 2nd-grade alchemy fire of the Su tribe, the nether demonic flame could be upgraded to the 3rd grade once the blood contract was erased. If he could get the 3rd-grade alchemy fire of the 3 super tribes, the nether demonic flame could be upgraded to the 4th-grade alchemy fire. When he was in Black Bear City, he used the alchemy fire of the martial arts hall to refine elixirs. Although it was very vague. But the alchemy fire of the martial arts hall was only 1st grade. The nether demonic flame was a 2nd-grade alchemy fire. It could refine an obvious alchemy pattern. The 3rd-grade alchemy fire of the sacred hall could refine 2 alchemy patterns. If it was a 4th-grade alchemy fire, it was very likely that it could refine an elixir with 3 alchemy patterns. The 9 Tunes Yellow Dragon elixir with 3 alchemy patterns could increase one's cultivation by 3 small realms. The red fire glazed elixir could increase one's cultivation by 4 small realms. When he returned to the state capital, he could use these elixirs to make a fortune and increase his value. Dong Clan, Lu Clan, just you wait. I will make you regret it. Qin Feiyang sneered. He took out a face-restoring elixir and swallowed it. After his appearance was restored, he went around the frozen lake and came to the gate of the Mingwang tribe. Stop right there. This is the Mingwang tribe. Please leave immediately. The 2 burly men immediately shouted. Qin Feiyang said, If it's not the Mingwang tribe, I won't come. What do you mean? The 2 men looked at each other, puzzled. No. Why does he look so familiar? The 2 of them carefully sized up Qin Feiyang for a moment. Their pupils suddenly shrank, and they immediately became vigilant. Why have you come to our Mingwang tribe? Don't tell me you want to steal our alchemy fire too? The 2 of them shouted sternly. How did you know? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Mingwang tribe was very far away from Su tribe and Sky Thunder City. They shouldn't have received the news so quickly, right? Our Bright King tribe has people in Sky Thunder City all year round. We'll be able to find out immediately if anything happens. Brat, I advise you to scram. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite. The 2 of them sneered. Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked, "Shouldn't you capture me?" Now that he was a wanted criminal, the two of them didn't care, and even let him leave? What was going on? "It's just a reward of 1 million gold coins. We don't care about it." Scram. Their expressions were arrogant, and their eyes were filled with disdain. "You're right. 1 million gold coins is indeed nothing for a mighty super tribe. However, I won't leave before I get the alchemy fire." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "What do you mean? You're really here to steal the alchemy fire?" The two of them flew into a rage. The aura of a 9-star battle monarch erupted and turned into an invisible giant wave that surged toward Qin Feiyang. "Steal?" Qin Feiyang snorted. He used the wind riding step and quickly dodged to the side. He dodged. The two of them were stunned. "Have you ever seen such a brazen thief? I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Call your leader out. I want to talk to him." Qin Feiyang said. "Who do you think you are? You want to see our leader? Go to hell and repent, snowstorm." The two of them raised their arms at the same time and slapped the air. The accumulated snow within a few hundred meters suddenly rose into the air. Woo-woo. The next moment, 2 snowstorms appeared with ear-piercing whistles and roared toward Qin Feiyang. "You don't have the ability to kill me." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. He pointed a finger in the air and a red sword aura appeared. Clang. In the blink of an eye, the red sword aura turned into 2 sword shadows that were more than 10 meters long and slashed toward the 2 snowstorms. Bang. In an instant, the sword aura collapsed. The snowstorms were annihilated. The 3 of them each took a step back. "What? He's so powerful." The 2 burly men's expressions changed. This kid looked to be in his teens, but his strength was on par with theirs. Qin Feiyang glanced at the 2 of them and looked toward a tall wooden building in the middle of the tribe. He shouted, "Leader of the Wise King tribe, I, Qin Feiyang, am here to visit. Please come out and meet me." The silence in the Mingwang tribe was broken because of this. The doors of the rooms opened one by one. Everyone walked out of the wooden building at the first moment. All of them were bewildered. "I won't see him." Soon, a voice filled with vigor echoed in the wooden building. "Won't see him?" Qin Feiyang sneered coldly. He took a step forward and dashed into the Wise King tribe at lightning speed. He left behind many shadows and headed straight for the wooden building. "Where is he?" The 2 burly men were stunned. "Stop right there." However, when they saw that Qin Feiyang had already entered the tribe, their expressions changed drastically. They hurried to chase after Qin Feiyang. However, although they were 9-star combat kings, they could not catch up with Qin Feiyang without any supplementary combat arts. "Damn scoundrel. Stop him," they hollered. "Lad, do you want to die? How dare you barge into the Wise King tribe? Die." In front, many figures dashed toward Qin Feiyang from all directions. Battle auras surged and engulfed the sky. All of a sudden, this place was as bright as day. However, Qin Feiyang turned a blind eye to it. He unleashed the phantom steps to the maximum. He shuttled through the crowd at high speed, leaving his afterimages everywhere. It was as if he was passing through a no-man's land. No one could stop him. Duh. A burly man blocked in front of Qin Feiyang and threw a punch. It landed on Qin Feiyang's chest. However, there was no blood. The burly man also felt that this punch seemed to have landed on air. Immediately after, Qin Feiyang's figure dissipated rapidly. "Damn it, it's a phantom." The burly man was furious. He turned around and saw that Qin Feiyang had already run dozens of meters away. Why is he so fast? It's a supplementary combat art. Even the 3 super tribes don't have any supplementary combat arts. He actually has one. What is his background? Everyone was shocked and bewildered. They were in disbelief. "Stop right there." Suddenly another person blocked in front of Qin Feiyang. He was wearing a leopard skin coat next to him. He was about 18 or 19 years old. His eyes were like pearls and his face was like jade. He was 7 feet tall and straight. His aura was quite outstanding, but his cultivation was not very good. Qin Feiyang could tell at a glance that there was a big difference between him and a 7-star martial grandmaster. "You dare to block my way with such strength, idiot!" He landed in front of the young man and slapped him directly. Slap. The crisp sound of a slap was heard. Ah! The young man screamed and flew out like a meteorite. He smashed into the snow and saw stars. He got up awkwardly and roared with a ferocious face. Bastard! All of you go and destroy him! The surrounding crowd immediately swarmed toward Qin Feiyang. Oh, you have a big background? Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, and he landed in front of the young man. What do you want to do? The young man was shocked and angry and kept retreating. Why don't you stay in the house and come out to join in the fun? Aren't you looking for death? Qin Feiyang grinned. His big hands suddenly stretched out. His 5 fingers were like iron pliers, tightly grasping the young man's neck. The young man started to struggle, unable to breathe. I advise you not to move, or I'll crush your throat. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. He turned to the crowd and shouted, Stop right there, or I'll kill him. Everyone stopped in unison. They did not know what to do. Let go of the young lord. Otherwise, you won't be able to escape today. A few middle-aged men flew through the air. They were all war emperors of the wise king tribe. I'm timid, don't scare me. Otherwise, don't blame me if I do anything to hurt him. Qin Feiyang glanced at them and chuckled. What do you want? A middle-aged man flew over. He was wearing a golden tiger fur coat and looked energetic. There was a great majesty between his brows. He was the leader of the wise king tribe Luo Guang. Qin Feiyang said, I want the alchemy fire. Preposterous. How dare you steal the alchemy fire of the wise king tribe? How dare you? The people of the wise king tribe were furious. Leader, he's the one who stole the alchemy fire of the Lu tribe. At this moment, the 2 men guarding the gate hurriedly ran over. I was wondering why he looked so familiar. So it's him. The surrounding crowd sized up Qin Feiyang, their gazes extremely unfriendly. Qin Feiyang, right? Let him go and leave immediately. I'll let bygones be bygones. Luo Guang said. Qin Feiyang said, That won't do. I'm here for the alchemy fire. If you don't give it to me, I won't leave. Luo Guang shook his head and said, I can't give you the alchemy fire. Change your conditions. Then I'll have to kill him and find a chance to steal it. Actually, I'm very sincere. Look, have I hurt anyone from your tribe? On the other hand, your tribesmen attacked me without saying a word. That's so rude. I have no choice. I can only steal it now. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. Luo Guang frowned and said, All right then. Let him go and we can talk. If I let him go, I'm afraid you'll gang up on me immediately. Don't treat me like an idiot. Cut the crap and hand over the alchemy fire. Qin Feiyang tightened his fingers. The young man in the leopard pelt was in agony. His face was flushed with blood. Father, save me. He struggled frantically and cried for help. His eyes were filled with fear and despair. Luo Guang looked at his son, and then at Qin Feiyang. His expression was grim. Qin Feiyang said, I'll count to 3. If you don't give it to me, I'll kill him. 1, 2, 3. Stop, I'll give it to you. Chapter 384. Not long after, an old man broke through the air and flew over. He had white hair and a white beard. His face was full of wrinkles, but his back was straight and his eyes were full of spirit. Above his head, there was a palm-sized flame floating. The flame jumped, filled with spirituality. When Qin Feiyang saw the flame, his eyes immediately lit up. Luo Guang nodded at the high priest, but at the same time he gave him a look. Take it. The high priest waved his hand, and the pill fire flew towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang said, Erase the blood contract first. Luo Guang coldly snorted. If you have the ability, then erase it yourself, or else you can kill him. The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth lifted. He could see through what this person was thinking with a single glance. Once he obtained the pill fire and released this youth, the high priest would definitely take back the pill fire. Because the blood contract was still there, the high priest could control it at will. Even if he held it tightly in his hands, the high priest only needed to think about it, and the pill fire would break free. However, it had to be said that Luo Guang was too naive. There was never a possibility of him spitting out anything that had reached Qin Feiyang's hands. Whiz. The pill fire broke through the air and floated in front of Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and opened a teleportation gate. You want to leave? No way. There was a big-sized man beside Luo Guang. He was also a war emperor, and when he saw Qin Feiyang opening the teleportation gate, his gaze immediately turned cold. He stretched out his arm and raised his hand to point at the air. His battle chi surged, preparing to destroy the teleportation gate. Don't do it. Luo Guang grabbed his wrist and shook his head. The big-sized man hurriedly said, Leader, if we don't stop him he will escape. Don't worry, he won't be able to escape, Luo Guang said in a low voice, his eyes filled with a cold light. But he quickly covered it up and lowered his head to look at Qin Feiyang, saying, Can you let him go now? Of course. Qin Feiyang nodded. He suddenly lifted the leopard skin youth and threw him towards Luo Guang and the others. At the same time, he grabbed the pill fire and ran into the teleportation gate without looking back. The next moment, the portal quickly disappeared. Luo Guang waved his hand and caught the young man. He frowned and asked, Are you all right? The young man in leopard skin swallowed his saliva with lingering fear. He shook his head and said, I'm fine. But father, you must kill him. He can't run away. Luo Guang smiled coldly and turned to look at the high priest. He said in a low voice, Retract your alchemic fire immediately. However, before he could finish his words, he noticed that the high priest's expression was very stiff, and his old eyes were filled with disbelief. Luo Guang frowned and asked, High priest, what are you doing? Quickly take back the alchemy fire. Leader, the high priest stammered as if he had encountered an unbelievable situation. He could not say a complete sentence for a long time. What's going on? Hurry up and say it. Luo Guang watched anxiously. The high priest said, I've lost contact with the alchemy fire. What? Luo Guang's expression changed. The surrounding battle emperors, as well as the tribe members below, stared with their eyes wide open in disbelief. When he entered the portal, I was about to retract my alchemic fire. But suddenly, something seemed to have cut off my connection with the alchemic fire. Leader, I'm afraid we're really going to lose the alchemic fire, the high priest said. That damn bastard. Luo Guang stomped his feet in anger. He thought that his plan was flawless, but he did not expect that he would be tricked by a little bastard. The young man in leopard skin said anxiously, Father, quickly send someone to look for him. Look for him? He left through the portal. No one knows where he went. Tell me, how can I find him? I'm just wondering. Why didn't you stay in the house? Why did you run out? If you didn't come out and get caught by him, would he be able to snatch the alchemic fire? You can't do anything right, but you're good at ruining things. Why did I give birth to such a stupid son like you? The more Luo Guang spoke, the angrier he became. In the end, he could not help but slap the young man in the face. The young man in leopard skin spat out a mouthful of blood and fell head first into the snow. He crawled up hurriedly. Half of his face was swollen and the blood-red palm print was extremely striking. Blood flowed continuously from the corner of his mouth. Ignoring the pain, he knelt on the ground and begged, Father, I know my mistake. Please forgive me. The high priest said, Leader, you can't blame him for this. It's all Qin Feiyang's fault. He's too cunning. Don't speak for him all the time. You'll spoil him. Luo Guang looked at him in dissatisfaction and lowered his head to look at the young man. Go to Sky Thunder City tomorrow morning. If you don't enter the Elixir Pagoda, don't ever return. Do you understand? I understand. The young man in leopard skin nodded. Also, Qin Feiyang snatched the alchemic fire. He should be an elixir refinement master as well. He might even take part in the Elixir Pagoda test. After you reach Sky Thunder City, keep a lookout. Inform us immediately if you discover anything. I'll definitely not let him have an easy time, Luo Guang said sinisterly with intense killing intent in his eyes. At the same time, at a certain place, there was a mountain ridge. The mountain ridge was covered in snow and stretched for dozens of miles. It was like a snow-white python lying on the ground. At this moment, Qin Feiyang stood at a high point of the mountain ridge and looked down. A few hundred meters below, there was a super large tribe. It was about the same size as the Mingwang tribe. That was the Black Tortoise tribe. After leaving the Mingwang tribe, he came here directly. No matter what, he had to obtain the alchemic fire of the 3 super tribes tonight. As for the alchemic fire of the Mingwang tribe, it was in the ancient castle. The ancient castle could cut off the connection between the alchemic fire and its owner. That was why the high priest of the Mingwang tribe could not recall the alchemic fire. Huff! Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and consumed a disguise elixir to change his appearance. He then used the wind-riding steps and ran down. He had to be fast. Otherwise, when the Black Tortoise and Purple Sun tribes received the news, they would definitely be on guard. They might even hide the alchemic fire. There were also 2 burly men guarding the entrance of the Black Tortoise tribe. It was silent all around. There were 2 huge torches on both sides of the entrance. They were about 5 to 6 meters long and were burning fiercely, illuminating the surroundings. Suddenly, there was a series of footsteps. Who's there? The 2 burly men immediately became alert and looked in the direction of the footsteps. I don't mean any harm. Don't be nervous. A calm voice rang out in the darkness. Qin Feiyang walked out of the darkness quickly and entered the sight of the 2 burly men. Who are you? The 2 of them sized up Qin Feiyang in confusion. Qin Feiyang walked in front of the 2 of them and cupped his fists. I'm from the Mingwang tribe. I have an urgent matter to see your leader. Hasn't the Mingwang tribe always liked to go against the Black Tortoise tribe? Now that you've taken the initiative to look for us, how strange. The 2 of them sneered. The 3 super tribes had been fighting openly and secretly for many years, and did not have a harmonious relationship. Qin Feiyang said, "This is extremely urgent. Please don't waste any more time." The 2 burly men looked at each other and asked in surprise, "What's the matter that made you come in the middle of the night?" Qin Feiyang said, "The leader said that only your leader can know about this." The 2 of them saw that Qin Feiyang did not seem to be lying, and did not dare to delay any longer. One of them said, "You follow me." Qin Feiyang followed behind him and sped towards the wooden building in the middle. 100 breaths passed. The 2 of them arrived at the door of the wooden building. The burly man knocked on the door and said respectfully, "Leader, the people of the Mingwang tribe have something to say." "Come in." A loud voice came from inside. The burly man pushed the door open, and a hall of about 100 feet appeared. There was a bonfire in the middle of the hall. There was a bed next to it. A burly man who was 2 meters tall sat on the bed, filled with a valiant aura. He was hugging 2 delicate women in his arms, and his hands were exploring their clothes restlessly. The 2 women's faces were flushed, and their eyes were rippling with lust. The Black Tortoise leader looked up at Qin Feiyang and frowned. "Why are you looking for me?" Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said, "The leader would like to invite you to the Mingwang tribe." The Black Tortoise leader's hands paused. "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang looked at the 2 women and asked, "Is it convenient to talk?" The Black Tortoise leader frowned and patted the 2 women's plump buttocks. He smiled and said, "I have something important to talk about. You can leave first." "Then hurry up." The 2 of them flirted with the Black Tortoise leader and walked out giggling. They then closed the door. Only Qin Feiyang and the Black Tortoise leader were left in the hall. The Black Tortoise leader said, "You can talk now." Qin Feiyang said in a low voice, "To be honest, our high priest accidentally obtained a pill formula and wants to invite you to study it together." "Pill formula?" The Black Tortoise leader was stunned and asked in surprise, "What pill formula?" "I'm not sure what pill formula it is exactly, but the leader wants me to tell you that as long as we can refine the pill in the formula, the overall strength of our 2 tribes will double overnight." Qin Feiyang said. "What?" The Black Tortoise leader suddenly stood up. His huge eyes were filled with disbelief, but then he returned to the bed and sneered. "Would the Mingwang tribe be so kind? Tell me honestly, what is your purpose?" "Absolutely no purpose." Qin Feiyang shook his head. He thought that this person was all brawn and no brains, but he did not expect him to be so smart. "I don't believe that the Mingwang tribe will let the Black Tortoise tribe have a share of such a good thing. Also, why don't you go to the Ziyang tribe?" The Black Tortoise leader said. Our leader said that he wants to take this opportunity to form an alliance with the Black Tortoise tribe and eliminate the Ziyang tribe first. The leader also said that if you are unwilling, we will go to the Ziyang tribe. Qin Feiyang said. The Black Tortoise leader's heart skipped a beat, but his eyes turned cold. Are you threatening me? Leader, don't misunderstand. This is not a threat. We are very sincere. Otherwise, the leader would not have asked me to come to the Black Tortoise tribe first. Chapter 385. The leader of the Black Tortoise tribe stared at Qin Feiyang for a moment before asking, Are you sure that what you said is true? If you don't believe me, you can head to our tribe and ask our leader. Furthermore, you're so strong. If we have any ill intentions towards you, you can just leave and none of us can stop you. Qin Feiyang said. That's true. Your Mingwang tribe doesn't have the ability to stop me. If you guys really have ill intentions, I can find a reason to destroy your tribe and kill all of your people. Alright, I'll go with you. The leader of the Black Tortoise tribe licked his lips and a bloodthirsty glint appeared in his eyes. He stood up and prepared to open the teleportation gate. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. Wait, leader. What's wrong? The leader of the Black Tortoise tribe frowned and looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyang said, Our leader instructed you to bring the elixir fire with you. The leader of the Black Tortoise tribe asked, Don't you guys have an elixir fire? The leader said that we'll open the cauldron and refine elixirs together. That way, we'll be more efficient. Bring the cauldron along too. Qin Feiyang smiled. The reason why he added the cauldron was to increase the authenticity. If he only brought the elixir fire, he would definitely have doubts. The leader of the Black Tortoise tribe pondered for a moment and said, I'll have to call the high priest along then. High priest, come out for a moment. Boom. Before he could finish, the ground in the depths of the hall suddenly split open, revealing a secret passage. Immediately after, along with the sound of light footsteps, an old woman over 50 years old with mottled white hair walked out of the secret passage. The old woman arrived in front of the two of them and glanced at Qin Feiyang. Then she looked at the leader of the Black Tortoise tribe and asked, What's the matter? The leader of the Black Tortoise tribe smiled. Bring the cauldron and elixir fire. We'll make a trip to the Ming King tribe. Yes. The white-haired old woman nodded. She waved her hand. A pitch-black pill cauldron and a cluster of bright flames flew out from the entrance of the secret passage. Qin Feiyang glanced at the elixir fire and cauldron with a glint in his eyes. There was a faint treasure light on the cauldron. Good. Not only did he obtain an alchemy fire, but he also obtained a grade 3 alchemy furnace. This time he really struck it rich. The alchemy fire and alchemy cauldron streaked across the sky and landed in front of the white-haired old woman. Just as the old woman was about to put them away. Who's there? Qin Feiyang suddenly let out a loud shout as he looked to the left. The Black Tortoise leader and the white-haired old woman were also shocked and instinctively looked over. Right at this moment, Qin Feiyang moved as fast as lightning, grabbing the pill furnace with one hand and the pill fire with the other. In an instant he disappeared without a trace. The two of them were stunned for a moment. When they came back to their senses, they were immediately enraged. He had been tricked. Damned little bastard. How dare you lie to this chief? Boom. The Black Tortoise leader roared angrily. With a shocking aura, he rushed out of the hall and stood in the air above the wooden building, sweeping his gaze in all directions. Whoosh. The white-haired old woman glanced around the hall. Seeing that there was no trace of Qin Feiyang, she also ran out of the hall. Did you see him? Her gloomy face was even scarier than the Black Tortoise leader's. No. The Black Tortoise leader shook his head. I'm not someone from the Bright King tribe. Remember my name. My name is Qin Feiyang. Suddenly, a voice sounded in the hall. The two of them ran into the hall hurriedly, and saw a teleportation gate that was dissipating rapidly. Little bastard, don't let me find you. The Black Tortoise leader was enraged. As the leader of a super tribe, he was fooled by a brat who was still wet behind the ears. This was an utter humiliation. The white-haired old woman said, Don't be anxious. I've already acknowledged the pill fire and pill furnace as my master. He can't take them away. However, the moment she said that, Her old face was filled with disbelief. At the same time, Qin Feiyang appeared at the peak of a snow mountain. The cold wind howled, bringing with it a bone-chilling coldness. Below the snow mountain, there was a basin surrounded by mountains. Within the basin was the Purple Sun tribe. Torches burned one after another, illuminating the Purple Sun tribe in the middle of the night as though it was daytime. There's only one pill fire left. Hopefully, I can get it successfully. Qin Feiyang mumbled. At this moment, he was very excited and a little nervous at the same time. This was the last step. He could not fail. When he left the Black Tortoise tribe, he told them his real name because he did not want the Black Tortoise tribe to ruin his plans. Because, if he did not tell them his real name, the Black Tortoise tribe would definitely go to the Wise King tribe to clarify things. When the time came, when the leaders of the two tribes confronted each other, they would probably guess that his next target was the Purple Sun tribe. But even so, he was still a little worried now. If the Black Tortoise leader did not believe him, and went to the Wise King tribe to confirm, then the same thing would happen. So now he had to race against time. Phew! He took a few deep breaths in a row. The cold air entered his body and calmed him down quickly. Success or failure depends on this. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He took out the face-restoring elixir and recovered his true appearance. Then he sped down. There were also 2 people guarding the gate of the Purple Sun tribe. They were also 9-star battle monarchs. In less than 10 breaths, he arrived at the gate of the tribe. Who are you? Why have you come to our Purple Sun tribe? When the 2 saw him, they immediately shouted. Qin Feiyang said, I am Qin Feiyang. I am here to challenge your Purple Sun tribe. Challenge? Is this kid out of his mind? The 2 of them looked at each other. A wild kid dared to come and challenge their Purple Sun tribe. Was he courting death? Why do you look a little familiar? The man on the left suddenly said in surprise. The man on the right looked at Qin Feiyang carefully and said, I remember now. You are the kid on the wanted poster. Do you dare to accept my challenge? Forget it. You can't make the decision. Take us to see your leader. Qin Feiyang did not talk nonsense. What a big tone. Come. Let's exchange a few moves first. The 2 of them rubbed their palms together, their expressions full of disdain. I am a gentleman. I won't use force. Let's compete in alchemy. Qin Feiyang said. Alchemy save time. Alchemy? The 2 of them were stunned. That's right. This person snatched the alchemy fire of the Lu tribe. He must be an alchemist. However, for the Purple Sun tribe, they were not afraid of competing in martial arts. They were even more afraid of alchemy, because there were many alchemy geniuses in the tribe. Ignorant kid, come with me if you have the guts. The man on the left smiled coldly and turned to walk into the tribe. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang used Imperial Wind Step and ran inside like a wisp of smoke. He really dares to go in? The man guarding the door was shocked. He thought that Qin Feiyang was just joking. He did not expect him to be serious. Whoosh! 2 figures came to the door of the wooden building in the center. You can keep up with my speed? The man leading the way turned his head and looked at Qin Feiyang behind him. He was quite surprised. Qin Feiyang glanced at him, walked straight up, and kicked the door open. Who has the guts to disturb this chief's meditation? An angry shout suddenly sounded. Qin Feiyang looked over and found that there was also a bonfire in the center of the hall. Beside the bonfire, a thin middle-aged man was sitting cross-legged on a futon, glaring at Qin Feiyang at the door. There was a scar on the left side of his face, like a ferocious centipede, which was a little scary. The man leading the way hurriedly said, Leader, he kicked the door. It has nothing to do with me. Who are you? What are you doing in the Purple Sun tribe in the middle of the night? Do you know the consequences of doing this? The middle-aged man shouted. The man leading the way said, Leader, his name is Qin Feiyang. He is the man on the wanted list. Now he is here to challenge the Purple Sun tribe. Challenge us? The middle-aged man was stunned. He stood up and looked at Qin Feiyang playfully, saying, You really don't know what's good for you. Tell me, how do you want to challenge us? Qin Feiyang took out the image crystal. The middle-aged man raised his eyebrows. Don't get too excited. I'm just recording what I'm going to say, so you won't regret it later. Qin Feiyang said calmly. Regret? The middle-aged man was furious. How dare he look down on the Purple Sun tribe? How unforgivable. Kid, there's a price to pay for your arrogance. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Bring it on. His eyes flashed coldly. Let's compete in alchemy. Whoever can refine a higher quality pill will win. The wager is the third-grade pill fire of the Purple Sun tribe. Do you dare? Qin Feiyang shouted, his eyes full of provocation. Compete in alchemy? The middle-aged man was stunned. He couldn't help but look at Qin Feiyang and frowned. This kid, isn't he too confident? Does he have something to rely on? But why haven't I heard of the name Qin Feiyang before? The middle-aged man asked. Kid, do you know where this place is? Of course I know. The Purple Sun tribe is one of the 3 super tribes with a strong foundation. But so what? With my alchemy skills, I can completely crush all of you. Qin Feiyang laughed arrogantly. Arrogant, too arrogant. Okay, I accept your challenge, but what if you die? The middle-aged man was so angry that he laughed. This was the first time someone dared to be so rampant in front of him. It was simply lawless. If he still didn't accept the challenge, then the Purple Sun tribe would really become a big joke in the future, laughing at the Purple Sun tribe for being incompetent and cowardly. This was absolutely not allowed. Qin Feiyang said without hesitation. If I lose, you can kill me or torture me as you wish. Okay. High Priest, come over immediately. The middle-aged man shouted. What should be recorded had been recorded. Qin Feiyang also put away the image crystal. The High Priest of the Purple Sun tribe lived next door. Soon, a beautiful woman who looked to be in her 20s walked into the hall quickly. Qin Feiyang turned his head to look, and couldn't help but be taken aback. The High Priests of the Mingwang tribe and the Black Tortoise tribe were both old men in their 70s or 80s. Therefore, he was not used to seeing this woman. However, this woman's aura was unfathomable. Obviously, she was also an old monster who had lived for many years. The High Priest glanced at Qin Feiyang and asked the middle-aged man, "What's the matter?" The middle-aged man briefly explained the situation. The High Priest was stunned and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously, as if she wanted to see through him. Can you hurry up? Are the people of the Purple Sun tribe so slow? Or are you afraid? If that's the case, then forget about the competition. Pretend that I'm not here. But this way, the Purple Sun tribe might become the laughingstock of the world in the future. Qin Feiyang's face was full of impatience. The High Priest frowned and said with a smile, "Little brother, it's better to keep a low profile. You talk too much. I won't accompany you." Qin Feiyang turned and left. Okay, let's compete. I won't bully you. We'll refine whatever pill you're best at. The High Priest said. I'm good at everything. Chapter 386. The High Priest frowned, and there was obviously displeasure on her face. This young man was too arrogant. She had to teach him a lesson. In that case, let's refine the battle chi pill. The High Priest had a thought. A cluster of bright alchemy fire and a pure white alchemy furnace broke through the air one after another. This alchemy furnace was also suffused with a layer of treasure light. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He wanted to take the opportunity to snatch it. But thinking about it, the conversation had already been recorded, so he was not afraid that the two of them would go back on their words. There's only one chance in the competition. If the medicinal materials are accidentally ruined during the refining process, it's equivalent to losing. Do you have any objections? The High Priest said. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, No, but I want to add a condition. The High Priest said, Speak. Add your alchemy furnace to the bet. In addition, no one is allowed to disturb me when I'm refining the pill, not even a word. Qin Feiyang said, Little brother, your appetite is really big, be careful not to overeat. Okay, I promise you. The High Priest did not talk nonsense, took out a set of medicinal materials for the battle chi pill, and began to refine the pill. Her movements were very skilled. Every step was just right. Obviously, She was a very experienced alchemist. After a while, a stream of light rushed out from the alchemy furnace. The high priest did not even look at it. With a wave of her hand, the pill turned in the air and flew toward Qin Feiyang. It showed full confidence. Qin Feiyang grabbed it and looked down. He found that there was a pill pattern on the pill. Although it was not very dazzling, it was not very blurry either. Not bad. Qin Feiyang praised. The quality of this pill could already be considered above average. The high priest smiled and said, "It's your turn now, go all out, let me see what you're capable of." Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile, "I won't let you down. Anyone can talk big." The middle-aged man snorted coldly, his eyes full of disdain. Qin Feiyang raised the corner of his mouth slightly. With a wave of his hand, the bronze furnace and the netherworld devil flame appeared out of thin air. Clang! The bronze furnace fell to the ground. The high priest glanced at the bronze pill furnace and frowned. "This is only a second-grade pill furnace?" Qin Feiyang nodded and said, "That's right. The alchemy fire is only of the second grade." The middle-aged man's face twitched as he asked, "Kid, do you know what grade the high priest's pill fire and pill furnace are?" Qin Feiyang said, "They're all rank 3. You also know that. Then why did you take out a second-grade pill fire and a pill furnace? You think you can win against the high priestess like this?" The middle-aged man looked at him strangely. This brat was overestimating his own ability too much. "There's no other way. I don't have a tier 3 alchemy fire or alchemy furnace, but a tier 2 alchemy fire and alchemy furnace are enough." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and took out a set of battle chi pill ingredients. "Arrogant brat, just wait for your death." A hint of disdain flashed across the middle-aged man's eyes. He did not believe that the pills that Qin Feiyang refined with a second-grade pill fire and pill furnace could surpass the high priest's. Swoosh! However, at this moment, 4 figures tore through the air and landed in the hall. Qin Feiyang turned his head to look, and his pupils instantly constricted. They really came looking for him. These 4 people were none other than the leaders and high priests of the Bright King tribe and Black Tortoise tribe. At the same time, the middle-aged man and high priest exchanged glances, their eyes full of confusion. Why did these 4 old things come here? And together? "You're really here. Hand over the pill fire and pill furnace immediately, and I can consider leaving your corpse intact." The 4 of them stared at Qin Feiyang, their faces full of anger. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "If there's anything, wait until I'm done refining this pill." "Refining pills?" The 4 of them frowned and looked at the middle-aged man and high priest suspiciously. "He's competing with me in pill refinement. What are you guys doing here?" The high priest looked at the 4 of them in confusion. Luo Guang said gloomily, "He snatched my tribe's pill fire. He went overboard in my Black Tortoise tribe. Not only did he snatch the pill fire, but he also snatched the pill furnace." The Black Tortoise leader said angrily. The middle-aged man and high priest were stunned and could not come back to their senses for a long time. He even dared to snatch the pill fire of the Bright King tribe and Black Tortoise tribe. Wasn't this brat too bold? In that case, this brat was still considered polite in their Purple Sun tribe. At least he did not snatch it. However, how did this brat do it? The 2 tribes were very strong. Even they were not confident that they could snatch the pill fire of the 2 tribes. Unbelievable. It seemed that they had underestimated this brat's ability. "Brat, didn't you hear? Hand over the pill fire immediately. Otherwise, you can wait to be cut into pieces." Luo Guang and the other 3 shouted, the killing intent in their eyes undisguised. Qin Feiyang glanced at the 4 of them, looked at the middle-aged man and high priest, and said with a smile, "The 2 of you, we agreed just now that no one can disturb my pill refinement." "Did we say that?" The 2 of them were stunned. After thinking carefully, they did say that. However, at first, they did not care at all. They only thought that Qin Feiyang told the 2 of them not to make a sound and disturb his pill refinement. However, it was only now that they understood. It turned out that Qin Feiyang was really afraid of Bright King and the people of the Black Tortoise tribe coming to find trouble with him. This way he would not be able to refine pills in peace. In short, this brat was using their Purple Sun tribe as a shield. This brat's scheming was too terrifying. He actually set a trap for them from the beginning. The two of them were a little angry in their hearts. However, they had already agreed in advance. They could not go back on their words, right? One had to know that Qin Feiyang still had a conversation record in his hands. The high priest looked at Luo Guang and the other three and said helplessly, "Give me face and wait for my competition with him to end before we settle your personal grudges." The four of them frowned and nodded one after another. Although they were all the leaders and high priests of the super tribes, they were now in the Purple Sun tribe after all. If they fell out, it would not be good for anyone. The high priest looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "All right, now you can refine pills in peace. Then you guys watch carefully." Qin Feiyang smiled, tidied up the herbs, and controlled the nether devil flame to begin refining. Medicinal herbs were continuously thrown into the bronze pill furnace one by one. Throughout the entire process, he did not panic at all and was calm and composed. The high priests of the three super tribes revealed a hint of surprise in their eyes. They were all highly accomplished alchemists. At a glance, they could tell that Qin Feiyang was an experienced alchemist. In fact, his speed was even faster than theirs. In less than 15 breaths, the battle chi pill was out of the furnace. Whoosh! The battle chi pill flew out of the pill furnace. Qin Feiyang grabbed it and threw it directly to the high priest of the Purple Sun tribe without even looking at it. The high priest caught his palm and smiled. "You are very confident." "Of course." Qin Feiyang smiled. Whoosh! Everyone's eyes fell on the high priest's hand. The high priest stretched out his arm and gradually spread out his hand. Immediately, streaks of dazzling light shot out from between her fingers. Such a strong light. Is it also an elixir vein? Everyone's heart trembled. The high priest's breathing also became rapid. His 5 fingers suddenly stretched out, and the battle chi pill suddenly appeared in front of everyone's eyes. For a moment, everyone was stunned. There was actually such a dazzling elixir vein. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. With a wave of his hand, he quickly opened a portal. At the same time, he waved his sleeves, rolled up the nether devil flame and the bronze pill furnace, as well as the third-grade elixir flame and the pill furnace, and ran in without looking back. If Luo Guang and the other three did not come, he would not do this. But now he had no choice. If he did not do this, when Luo Guang and the other three came back to their senses, he was afraid that he would not be able to leave. Damn it! Quickly catch up. Luo Guang and the other three were stunned and immediately rushed towards the portal. However, it was a step too late. The portal disappeared. The four of them were furious. He escaped when they were not paying attention. This little bastard was really more slippery than a loach. The middle-aged man and the high priest also looked at each other. Luo Guang looked at them and said angrily, "It's all your fault. If we had caught him from the beginning, he would not have been able to escape." The high priest smiled bitterly. "How would we know that he was so cunning?" Humph. Luo Guang snorted coldly and did not say anything more. He left with the white-haired old man. The black tortoise leader and the white-haired old woman did not continue to stay and quickly left. After watching the four leave, the middle-aged man frowned and turned to look at the high priest. "See if the blood contract is still there?" The high priest carefully sensed for a moment and shook his head. "The blood contract is still there, but it seems like something has cut off my connection with the pillfire." The middle-aged man was stunned and sighed. "We've all underestimated this Qin Feiyang. Yes, his alchemy attainments have far surpassed mine. Why don't we talk to him and ask him to join our tribe?" The high priest said. "Impossible. Didn't you see his eyes? He doesn't care about our 3 super tribes at all," the middle-aged man said. The high priest said, "If he agrees, I can even give the position of high priest to him." The middle-aged man was stunned and shook his head with a smile. "Looks like you like him very much." The high priest smiled. "He's a rare talent. If he can be nurtured well, his future achievements will be even greater." "That makes sense. All right, let's talk to him. He's so talented in alchemy. He should be participating in the Pill Pagoda test. Get someone to keep an eye on him." After the middle-aged man finished speaking, he thought for a moment and said, "What if he doesn't join our tribe? As long as he doesn't join another tribe, we won't care. But if he goes against us, We'll have to get rid of him," the high priest said with a smile. The middle-aged man nodded thoughtfully and smiled. "Do as you see fit." The high priest turned and left. A glint flashed across the middle-aged man's eyes. Then he closed his eyes and continued to cultivate. Sky Thunder City. Somewhere in the mountain range outside the city, a figure appeared out of thin air. It was Qin Feiyang. As soon as he appeared, he bent over with his hands on his knees and panted heavily. Although he looked relaxed in the Purple Sun tribe, he was actually very nervous. Especially when Luo Guang and the other three arrived, his heart almost jumped out of his chest. Fortunately, there was no danger. Huff! Chapter 387. Early in the morning, a lot of people gathered at the city gate, making a lot of noise. Qin Feiyang walked over curiously. On the city wall, there was another arrest warrant. And on the arrest warrant, it was his portrait. In one night, he took away the elixir fire of 2 super tribes. Where did this Qin Feiyang come from? You're wrong, he took away the elixir fire of 3 super tribes. Yes, but because Qin Feiyang competed with the Ziyang tribe in alchemy and won the elixir fire. So the Ziyang tribe didn't arrest him. People were talking about it. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. The news spread really fast. However, when he saw the situation at the city gate, the smile on his face instantly froze. In front of the city gate, there was a long line. The 2 guards who chatted with him last night, each holding a Heaven's Eye stone, carefully checked every person who entered the city. Not good. Qin Feiyang muttered secretly. Brother Su, so you're here. Suddenly, a familiar voice sounded behind him. Qin Feiyang turned his head and saw Mu Qing and Mu Shui are walking towards him. Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked, "Why are you here too?" Before dawn, this matter has spread like crazy in Sky Thunder City. My sister and I are very curious, so we came to have a look. He actually dared to go and snatch the elixir fire of a super tribe. This Qin Feiyang is also a badass. Brother Su, don't you think so? Mu Qing looked at the arrest warrant and looked at Qin Feiyang with a smile. Yes, he is indeed very powerful. Qin Feiyang nodded. Mu Qing said, I also heard that when Qin Feiyang went to the Ziyang tribe last night to challenge, it was the priest of the Ziyang tribe who competed with him in alchemy. Qin Feiyang said in surprise, Are you kidding? How could the high priest of the Ziyang tribe lose to him? Yeah. My sister and I were surprised when we first heard about it. I only found out after asking around. So that Qin Feiyang can refine top-grade pills, and the pill veins are very dazzling. I really want to see this Qin Feiyang in person. Mu Qing chuckled, but a wisp of strange light flickered in the depths of his eyes. Brother, what's the hurry? Since that Qin Feiyang has such high talent in the Tao of Alchemy, he will definitely participate in the Pill Pagoda's examination. Big Brother Su, don't you agree? Mu Shui said. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. Mu Shui sized up Qin Feiyang and asked, Brother Su, what did you do last night? Why are you in such a sorry state? Qin Feiyang's body was covered in blood after fighting with the fierce beasts for an entire night. He also had many injuries. I didn't feel sleepy last night and I had nothing to do, so I went outside the city to find fierce beasts to practice and increase my combat experience. Qin Feiyang smiled. Mu Shui suddenly understood and said, So that's how it is. Brother Su is really hardworking. Mu Qing's eyes flashed and he smiled and said, Brother Su, you haven't registered yet, right? My sister and I have nothing to do now, so we'll accompany you. Then I'll have to trouble you. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said with a smile. The 3 of them left the crowd, lined up behind a burly man, and slowly moved toward the city gate. What should we do? Qin Feiyang looked at the 2 guards, and he was quite anxious. If they entered the city like this, their identities would definitely be exposed. Soon, it was Mu Qing and Mu Shui's turn to be checked. Both of them were fine. They entered the city smoothly. Next, it was naturally Qin Feiyang's turn. Mu Qing and his sister also stopped and turned to look at Qin Feiyang, as if waiting for him. But in the depths of his eyes, there was an inexplicable light. Next, the 2 guards lowered their heads and shouted, Qin Feiyang walked in front of them. "Little brother, it's you." The two guards looked up, and when they saw Qin Feiyang, a smile immediately crept up on their faces. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Two big brothers, you've worked hard. It can't be helped. We're just tired. Unlike you, little brother, you can take things wherever you want. You're carefree and free. Look at you, you must have fought with the beasts all night. How is it? Are you relaxed now?" The two asked. "I'm a lot more relaxed. When you're done with your work, I'll invite you to have a few drinks and relax." Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Okay, we'll look for you then. Don't go back on your word." The two laughed and said. Qin Feiyang said, "I'll be waiting for you at any time. Anyway, the people behind are waiting anxiously. It's time to be checked." "You don't have to check. Just go in." The two smiled and said. Qin Feiyang was stunned and whispered, "That's not good." "What's not good about it? We watched you leave the city last night. The blood on your body hasn't dried yet. What's the problem? Don't be long-winded. Just go in." The two guards waved their hands and said, "Okay, I won't disturb the two big brothers. Let's meet again when we're free." Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Brother, wait. Sky Thunder City is very chaotic recently. You have to be careful." The two guards warned him in a low voice. "Thank you for your reminder." Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and thanked them. Then he walked toward Mu Qing and her sister. The brother and sister looked at each other with a hint of surprise. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Let's go." The three of them walked side by side and strode into the city. "Brother Su, is this really your first time in Sky Thunder City?" Mu Shui looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. "Why do you ask?" Qin Feiyang didn't understand. Mu Shui said, "If it's your first time here, why are you so familiar with the two guards? And you don't even need to check?" "When I left the city last night, I chatted with them for a while. They're not bad. I can make friends with them," Qin Feiyang explained casually. "Oh." Mu Shui nodded in realization. "Get lost." But at this moment a violent shout came from behind. "Don't be presumptuous here. You have to be checked." Immediately after, the two guards' voices were heard. Qin Feiyang frowned and turned to look. A cold light flashed in his eyes. He saw the two guards stopping a young man in leopard skin. He had seen this person before. It was the young master of the Bright King tribe. Last night, he had been kidnapped by him. And behind this person, there were two fierce-looking burly men. They were also from the Bright King tribe. They had a strong aura. Qin Feiyang judged that they were 9-star combat kings. "Don't you have eyes? Don't you know who I am?" The young man in leopard skin glared at the two guards with a haughty look. "I know who you are. But you have to be checked too." The two guards' attitudes were also very tough. "This is outrageous. Even this arrest warrant was requested by the Bright King tribe. How dare you check me? I think you're tired of living. Get them out of my way." The young man in leopard skin shouted. The two burly men behind him took a step forward and punched the two guards in the chest. Poof! The two guards were sent flying. They rolled in front of Qin Feiyang and the other two, spitting blood from their mouths. The Heaven's Eye Stone also fell to the ground. The young man in leopard skin stomped on the two Heaven's Eye Stones and said disdainfully, "You're just two watchdogs. How dare you block my way? You're overestimating yourselves. What's the big deal about being checked? How dare you hit them? That's too much. What can we do? He's from a powerful family. Stop talking. If he hears you, you'll be in trouble." Many people had gathered behind Qin Feiyang and the other two. They were whispering, but no one dared to step forward and speak up for the two guards. Qin Feiyang's gaze turned cold. He bent over and helped the two guards up. He asked with concern, "Brothers, are you all right? We won't die. Don't worry about us. He's the son of the Bright King tribe's leader. His name is Luo Yi. You're an outsider with no family background. You can't afford to offend him. Don't worry. There are rules in Sky Thunder City. He won't dare to kill us." The two guards said in a low voice. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly. At this moment, Luo Yi, surrounded by the two burly men, walked to the front of the few people. He glanced at Qin Feiyang and the others. When he saw Mu Shui, his eyes couldn't help but light up. Following that, he retracted his gaze and looked at the two guards with contempt. Apologize to me. Not only did you hit them, you even want them to apologize. That's too unreasonable. Mu Shui muttered softly, feeling indignant for the two guards. The leopard-skin youth raised his eyebrows and said, "Little beauty, you have to understand a principle. There are some things that can't be said carelessly." Mu Qing frowned and cupped his hands with a smile. "I'm sorry, my sister is young and insensible. Brother, please do your best. I think that Miss Shui's words make sense. You came to participate in the Pill Pagoda's assessment, and even brought 2 lackeys? Just like the rumors, you're a hedonistic scum." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. The two guards' expressions changed. They hurriedly said, "Little brother, why are you interrupting? Leave quickly. I just can't stand some good-for-nothings who rely on their family background to abuse their power outside." Qin Feiyang laughed. "What did you say? Say it again if you have the guts." The leopard-skin youth's face darkened. "It's none of his business. If you have the ability, come at us," the two guards said angrily. "Yeah." The leopard-skin youth looked at the two of them in surprise. "Although I don't dare to kill people in Sky Thunder City, if I want to teach a few trash a lesson, the city lord won't say anything." The leopard-skin youth smiled playfully. His gaze suddenly turned cold as he shouted, "Cripple the two of them." The two burly men behind him had a fierce look in their eyes as they punched towards the two guards. "Courting death." Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. Because of these two guards, his true identity was not exposed. He had no choice but to repay this kindness. He pushed the two of them away and stretched out his hands. Golden light emerged from his palms and collided with the two burly men. "Ah!" Accompanied by a painful scream, the two burly men were directly sent flying. Their two arms were shattered on the spot. What? He actually made a move. The surrounding crowd was dumbfounded. Mu Qing and his sister looked at each other, and there was a trace of shock in their eyes. The two guards were also stunned. He sent the two burly men flying with one palm. What a powerful strength. Luo Yi also looked at Qin Feiyang in disbelief. On one hand, it was because of Qin Feiyang's strength. Chapter 388. Everyone was silent. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Qin Feiyang in disbelief. "Bastard! Do you know who I am? Do you know the consequences of offending me?" Luo Yi was furious and roared at Qin Feiyang. "Consequences?" Qin Feiyang was so angry that he laughed. How dare he threaten him now? Whoosh! He took a step forward and landed in front of Luo Yi. Luo Yi immediately retreated in panic. "Then do you know the consequences of offending me?" Qin Feiyang took another step forward, and his eyes flashed with a piercing murderous intent. Thump. When Luo Yi saw his eyes, he couldn't help but feel scared and fell to the ground. "I've seen too many hedonistic sons like you. If there's no one to back you up, what are you?" Qin Feiyang said as he walked toward Luo Yi, his eyes full of contempt. Luo Yi kept retreating and his face was full of panic. "Aren't you very arrogant? What are you afraid of now? You don't even have the courage to stand up and fight with me. Is this your courage? With your character, if you weren't born in the Wise King tribe, you wouldn't even be considered a scum. At most, you're a useless idiot." Qin Feiyang stopped and looked at Luo Yi in disdain. He then turned and walked toward the two guards. "Well done. This is so satisfying." The two guards laughed. The surrounding crowd was also full of praise. Mu Shui looked at Qin Feiyang and there was a strange look in her beautiful eyes. His temperament was outstanding. His courage was amazing. He was loyal. This man was really charming and irresistible. At the same time, Mu Qing's eyes were also shining with an inexplicable brilliance. "How dare you say that I'm an idiot?" Luo Yi muttered to himself. Since he was young, he had been the pride of the Wise King tribe. Anyone who saw him had to be polite. He had never been humiliated like this. No one dared to say that he was an idiot. All of a sudden, he raised his head and stared at Qin Feiyang's back, his eyes flashing with hatred. Boom! He suddenly stood up. His aura suddenly erupted. He charged towards Qin Feiyang angrily like a wild beast that had gone mad. "Young master, you can't." Seeing this, the two burly men's faces suddenly changed as they hurriedly shouted. However, Luo Yi was already rational. How could he possibly listen? He only had one thought now, and that was to kill Qin Feiyang. This was the only way to wash away the humiliation he had suffered today. "Die, you piece of shit." His eyes were filled with murderous intent, and his true qi surged. He suddenly slapped his palm toward Qin Feiyang's back. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. He stopped in his tracks. "Trash like you, I can kill you 100 times over even if I don't do anything," he said without turning his head as his flaming battle qi gushed out. Clang. The next moment, two crimson blades were formed. As if they were cast from magma, they emitted an amazing sharpness. At the same time, there was a piercing murderous intent. "Little brother, you can't kill him. Listen to my advice. You can teach him a lesson, but don't kill him," the two guards hurriedly said. Qin Feiyang frowned. Whoosh. The two blades cut through the sky and instantly cut off Luo Yi's arms. Suddenly, blood spurted out like a fountain. Ah, that heart-wrenching pain swept over. Bang. Luo Yi immediately fell to the ground and kept rolling on the ground, howling miserably. "Young master, I'll fight with you." When the two burly men saw Luo Yi's miserable state, they were immediately furious and rushed toward Qin Feiyang aggressively. "Do you really think I don't dare to kill?" Qin Feiyang suddenly turned around. Like an enraged lion, he pointed his finger in the air. "Ultimate ruin." He spat out these two words coldly. The flaming battle qi suddenly emerged like a tide, turning into a huge wave and directly drowning the two men. Ah! Two miserable screams suddenly resounded through the sky. When the flaming battle qi dissipated, the two burly men were nowhere to be seen. There was not even a drop of blood. It was as if they had evaporated into thin air. Killed. The surrounding onlookers were dumbfounded. Good job. Such people should be killed. When they came back to their senses, they could not help but secretly applaud. Luo Yi. He looked at the place where the two burly men disappeared. His face was pale. He even forgot about the pain. All of a sudden, he quivered and turned to look at Qin Feiyang, laughing crazily. "Haha. You killed someone. You're dead this time. How dare you kill someone in Sky Thunder City? Even if God comes down, he won't be able to save you today. Guards of Sky Thunder City, come quickly. Someone died here." There were rules in Sky Thunder City. In the city, no one was allowed to kill anyone. In his opinion, Qin Feiyang had committed a capital crime. Whoosh. In less than 5 breaths, a burly man in black broke through the air. "Greetings, Commander." The two guards bowed and said. This person was the commander of the guards of Sky Thunder City. He stood in the air and glanced at the situation below. He frowned and said, "What's going on? This person is audacious. Not only did he cut off my hands, but he also killed the people of Mingwang tribe. Guard Commander, you must punish him severely." Luo Yi roared angrily. The commander looked at Qin Feiyang and frowned slightly. He asked, "Why did you attack in the city?" "Commander, this is what happened." Luo Yi was arrogant. Not only did he not accept our interrogation, he even injured us. He even wanted to destroy our cultivation. It was this little brother who couldn't stand their behavior, so he helped us. This little brother didn't do anything to them at first. But this Luo Yi bullied him and wanted to kill him. So this little brother fought back. To be honest, this little brother was defending the dignity of our guards. "Commander, I beg you to be lenient. We are telling the truth. If you don't believe us, you can ask the others." The two guards knelt on the ground and said respectfully. The commander looked at the crowd around him. Everyone nodded. The commander glanced at Qin Feiyang and then at Luo Yi. His gaze turned cold. "Even your father doesn't dare to be presumptuous in Sky Thunder City, let alone you. I will report this to the city lord. Also, I will propose to disqualify Mingwang tribe from participating in the Pill Pagoda test. Get out of here immediately." With that, the guard commander turned around and flew away, not giving Luo Yi the slightest chance to refute. What? Luo Yi was stunned. He thought that the commander would be furious and kill Qin Feiyang in front of everyone, but he didn't. Not only that, he didn't even blame him. Instead, he wanted to disqualify Ming Wang tribe from participating in the Pill Pagoda. He didn't expect this at all. He was done for. If his father knew about this, how would he punish him? Meanwhile, the people around him were gloating. How delightful. This was the right attitude to treat a good-for-nothing rich kid. The two guards got up and looked at Luo Yi. They sneered. Take your arms and get out. Yes. Get out now. Sky Thunder City doesn't welcome good-for-nothing rich kids like you. If you want to be arrogant, go back to your tribe and do it. No one can stop you. If you don't get out, we'll each spit at you and drown you. The crowd also started to jeer, their faces full of disgust. Luo Yi scanned the crowd. He had never been in such a sorry state since he was born. The resentment in his heart towards Qin Feiyang had also become even more intense. He abruptly raised his head, looked at Qin Feiyang, and said harshly, "Just you wait, your death will come very soon. How dare you threaten me?" Qin Feiyang stared blankly for a moment before he playfully said, "Say, if I were to kill you now, would the guard commander blame me?" Luo Yi's body and mind trembled. He immediately got up and fled out of the city like a stray dog. Serves you right. Retribution. The people lining up at the city gate were also disdainful. They couldn't help but curse in their hearts. Phew. The two guards let out a long breath and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. They cupped their hands and smiled. "Little brother, thank you." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and smiled. "Don't be so polite. I should be the one thanking you. If it weren't for these two people who told him the coordinates of the 3 super tribes, he wouldn't have been able to get the pill fire of the 3 tribes overnight. In short, he was grateful to these two people. We're polite. You're more polite than us. Let's not talk about it anymore. We'll meet again when we're free." The two guards smiled. "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. "By the way, I still don't know your name?" The two just turned around and looked back at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang smiled. "Su Ping." "Su Ping?" The two were stunned. What an unfamiliar name. But they didn't think too much about it. After the two left, the crowd around also greeted Qin Feiyang enthusiastically. After a few words of greeting, Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing left. Soon, 2 young men in their teens entered Sky Thunder City. One of them was burly 9 meters tall. His upper body was exposed, and his whole body was full of explosive power. He looked extremely valiant. The other was about 8 meters tall. He was quite thin, wearing a white robe, and his black hair draped over his shoulders. He held a jade flute in his left hand. There was a faint smile on his face, with a scholarly aura. The refined young man asked, "Have you heard of the name Su Ping?" "No." The burly man shook his head. The refined young man smiled faintly. "This person is a bit interesting. We have to pay attention to him. He's just a nobody. There's no need to." The burly man frowned with a touch of disdain on his face. "Don't underestimate him. Otherwise you might end up like Luo Yi." The refined young man smiled. "Don't always compare that idiot Luo Yi with me. And don't always act high and mighty. If you piss me off, I'll cripple you one day." The burly man glanced at the refined young man and strode away. "Cripple me? I'm afraid you don't have that ability." The refined young man whispered. A strange light flashed in his eyes, and then he followed unhurriedly. Chapter 389. Pill Pagoda. This ancient pagoda landed in the middle of a square in the center of the city, tall and majestic. When Qin Feiyang followed Mu Qing and arrived outside the square, an ancient aura immediately hit him in the face. It was hard to imagine how many years the Pill Pagoda had existed. He raised his head and looked at the Pill Pagoda, a light flickering in the depths of his eyes. The moment he thought that the heavenly thunder fire was inside, he could not help but feel excited. Mu Qing glanced at Qin Feiyang, and also raised his head to size up the Pill Pagoda. He said with a smile, "Are you very eager and can't wait to go in now?" Qin Feiyang nodded. "Then work hard. If you don't pass the test, forget about the Pill Pagoda. You won't even be able to get close to the gate." Mu Qing said with a smile. Around the square, there was a guard standing guard at every set distance. Unless one was a disciple of the Pill Pagoda, one could forget about stepping in. I'll definitely go in. Qin Feiyang muttered secretly. He came for the heavenly thunder fire. Now that it was right in front of him, how could he give up? Let's go. I'll bring you to sign up. Mu Qing smiled and walked towards a hall at the side. The hall was located at the edge of the square, occupying an area of only 50 to 60 meters, and only having 2 floors in total. Outside the hall, there was a very long queue. There were men and women, more than 100 people. Although there were many people, this place was unusually quiet. Everyone was silent. And these people were not old either. They were basically between 14 and 25 years old. Big Brother Su, hurry and line up. Also, it's forbidden to make noise here. If you violate it, you'll be disqualified. Mu Shui said in a low voice. Qin Feiyang nodded and walked behind the last person. Looking at the registration hall, his eyes flickered. Mu Qing and his sister also retreated to the side. Mu Shui said softly, "Brother, his strength is stronger than we imagined." Yeah. Mu Qing nodded and asked, "What's the battle art he used to kill those 2 burly men called?" Mu Shui said, "I think it's called ultimate." Mu Qing said, "If I'm not wrong, ultimate should be a perfect battle art." Perfect battle art. Mu Shui's eyes trembled. Not only was he a 7 stars battle monarch, but his alchemy talent was also so high, and he had even grasped a perfect battle art. Just what kind of background did this Qin Feiyang have? "Brother, can your omniscient eye see through the level of his spiritual power?" Mu Shui asked softly. "No. I have to wait until the all-seeing eye evolves before I can see through a person's mental strength. But I'm sure that his spiritual power is very strong," Mu Qing whispered. Suddenly, he seemed to have discovered something and turned to look at the street behind him. There 2 people walked over. It was the scholarly youth and the burly man. The refined young man seemed to have sensed something in his heart. He also raised his head to look at Mu Qing and her sister, nodding with a smile. Mu Qing also smiled and looked away. Mu Shui whispered, "I didn't expect them to come. The Pill Tower only recruits disciples once every 5 years. It would be strange if they didn't come." Mu Qing laughed in a low voice. The refined young man and the burly man glanced at the registration hall and directly walked to line up behind Qin Feiyang. Both of them were sizing up Qin Feiyang, but their expressions were different. The refined young man was a little curious. The burly man had a disdainful look on his face. Half an hour later, finally, it was Qin Feiyang's turn. The registration was very simple. He just had to say his name. As for what happened after that, the people in the registration hall didn't explain anything and directly let Qin Feiyang leave. Walking out of the hall, Qin Feiyang came to Mu Qing and her sister and frowned. "Do you know the rules of the assessment? I'm afraid that among all the people who came to register, you're the only one who doesn't know. Let's go. I'll tell you slowly on the way." Mu Qing shook her head with a smile. After Mu Qing and her sister's explanation, Qin Feiyang understood that the assessment was divided into several levels. The first was to test willpower. The second was to test mental strength. The third was to test one's control of alchemy fire. The fourth was to test alchemy. This was also the ultimate assessment. The assessment would begin a month later. One had to pass all the assessments to enter the Pill Tower. As for the specific situation, when the assessment time came, he would naturally know, so the siblings didn't explain much. Mu Qing said, "Brother Su, I wonder if you noticed the 2 people behind you?" "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang frowned. He saw them, but he didn't take it to heart. The refined young man is the son of the chief of the Purple Sun tribe. His name is Shiyin. The burly man is the son of the chief of the Black Tortoise tribe. His name is Yanshi. It is said that the mental strength of these 2 people is very monstrous. They may become our strong rivals. Mu Qing said. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "It doesn't matter. I won't compete with them for anything, as long as I can enter the Pill Tower." "That's true," Mu Qing said with a smile. Qin Feiyang glanced at the siblings and said with a smile, "Brother Mu, Miss Shui, I still have something to deal with. I'll take my leave first. Mu Shuer said. Do you need help? Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said with a smile. No, it's just a small matter. Mu Qing said with a smile. Okay, when you're done, come to the Spring Rain House to find us. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded, and then turned to walk to another street. Mu Shuer sighed. He's really a difficult person. That's why I'm interested in him. Mu Qing smiled and a strange light flashed in her eyes. At the same time, Qin Feiyang's brows were tightly knitted. He always felt very uncomfortable staying with Mu Qing and her sister. He even had an illusion that the siblings had seen through him. He had seen many smart people all the way from Ironox Town to today, but it was still the first time that someone made his heart palpitate. Moreover, he felt that these two people were even more mysterious than him. Especially that Mu Qing. She always gave people an unfathomable sense of mystery. This made him not want to continue interacting with the two of them. Because he had thought it through. There was no need at all. Anyway, he would leave sooner or later. As long as they did not hinder him from snatching the Sky Thunder Flame. Whatever the siblings' motives were had nothing to do with him. If they hindered him, he would not show mercy either. Finding a deserted alley, Qin Feiyang entered the ancient castle and copied the 7th stroke of the battle character formula without caring about what was happening outside. Following that, many young people entered Sky Thunder City every day. They were all aiming for the Pill Pagoda. In the end, it was really as the Spring Rain House's waiter said. Sky Thunder City was overcrowded. Many people set up tents outside the city. Time flew by. A month later, Qin Feiyang only copied half of the 7th stroke. His speed could be said to be greatly reduced. But Qin Feiyang was not too angry. After all, it was all within his expectations. Phew. He retracted his arm, let out a long breath, and closed the 6-word divine formula. Then he took out the jade pendant and drank a drop of transparent liquid. Lu Hong opened her eyes and said with a smile, We've been in the Forgotten Land for half a year. Qin Feiyang sighed. That's right, time really flies. I remember when you guys went to the martial arts treasury, Dongfang Yu and Xiao Jian said that the Sacred Hall will hold a competition in half a year. It should start now. Lu Hong said. Qin Feiyang was stunned and nodded. That's true. Why? Do you still want to participate? I'm not interested, but, at this point Lu Hong looked at Fatso and Wolf King, shook her head and smiled. These two guys definitely don't want to miss this opportunity to join in the fun. Fatso opened his eyes and said unhappily, Don't drag us into this. Fat Lord and Brother Wolf only have one thought now, and that is to go into seclusion. Wolf King said, That's right, breaking through to the War Emperor is the main thing. Who doesn't know what you guys are thinking? It's because we're not in the capital that you guys are saying this. If we were in the capital now, I'm afraid you guys would be the first to join in the fun. Lu Hong looked at them with disdain. Believe it or not, I won't talk nonsense with you. Fatso, go into seclusion. Yes, go into seclusion. The man and wolf closed their eyes and quickly entered a state of cultivation. Qin Feiyang looked at them and couldn't help but laugh. The Sacred Hall should be very lively today, but the Sky Thunder City will be even more lively today. The Heavenly Thunder Flame, I must get it. Qin Feiyang clenched his fists, his eyes shining with determination. Shua. In the next moment, he left the castle. When he arrived at the plaza in front of the Pill Pagoda, the huge plaza was already filled with a sea of people, and the noise was deafening. Brother Su, why are you only here now? I thought you had forgotten. Mu Qing and Mu Shuer walked out from the crowd and looked at Qin Feiyang helplessly. He had said that he would go to the Chunyi restaurant to look for them after he was done with his business. But in the end, for an entire month, he didn't even see a shadow of a ghost. Those who didn't know would think that this guy had disappeared from the face of the earth. Qin Feiyang entered the plaza, walked in front of the two of them, and said with a smile, How could I forget such an important matter? How is it? Is it about to start? Mu Qing said soon. Qin Feiyang nodded. Suddenly, he felt a murderous aura coming at him. He turned around and saw Luo Yi staring at him with hatred in the crowd not far away. and the refined young man and the burly man were both beside Luo Yi. The two people's expressions did not change at all from a month ago. The refined young man looked at Qin Feiyang curiously, and even nodded at Qin Feiyang in a friendly manner, while the burly man still had a look of disdain. Qin Feiyang smiled at the refined young man, turned back to look at Mu Qing, and said with a frown, "Didn't the Bright King Battle Tribe's qualification to participate in the competition was revoked?" Mu Qing was stunned and asked back, "You don't know?" Qin Feiyang frowned and said, "What do I know?" Mu Qing's face twitched and said helplessly, "You don't even know about such a big matter. Were you in Sky Thunder City this month?" "Big Brother Su, it's like this. The city lord originally wanted to revoke the Bright King tribe's qualification, and had already given the order. But later, the Bright King tribe's leader Luo Guang personally came to Sky Thunder City and apologized to the two guards. In the end, he went to the city lord to plead for leniency and persuaded him in every possible way to change his mind. Luo Guang even went to the Spring Rain House to look for you. He seemed to want to apologize to you, but you weren't there." Mu Shuer smiled. "So that's the case." Qin Feiyang was enlightened. Mu Qing asked curiously, "Brother Su, what exactly did you do this month?" "After settling my personal matters, I cultivated outside the city." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said perfunctorily. He looked at Luo Yi again, and there was a cold glint in the depths of his eyes. Chapter 390. Half an hour later. Almost everyone who participated in the assessment had arrived. There were more than 10,000 people. Swoosh. At this moment, two figures broke through the air and arrived. They landed on the steps in front of the Pill Pagoda. One of them was the leader of the guards. The other was a middle-aged man. He wore a fitting white robe with white hair at his temples, giving people a feeling of vicissitudes. He stood there with his hands behind his back. His eyes were calm, and he was emitting a strong oppressive force. Mu Qing whispered, "Brother Su, he is the city governor of Sky Thunder City." Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. When the city governor and the leader of the guards arrived, the square quieted down. It was dead silent. The city governor glanced at the people in the square and said, "Everyone knows the rules, so I won't say much. Now we will begin the first round of the willpower assessment. As for those who are not here yet, they will be disqualified." After speaking, the city governor nodded to the leader of the guards. "Under my pressure, if you can hold on for 10 breaths, you will pass the first round." As soon as the leader of the guards finished speaking, a shocking pressure roared out from his body. In an instant, it enveloped the entire square. The people in the square suddenly felt as if there was a huge mountain pressing down on their heads. Their legs trembled, their faces turned pale, and beads of sweat appeared. Such a strong pressure, it should be an 8-star combat emperor. Qin Feiyang mumbled. The pressure of an 8-star combat emperor was not a threat to him. When he was in Yen City, he could withstand Yen Nanshan's pressure when he had only opened the first level of the Gate of Potential. Moreover, he had already opened the third level of the Gate of Potential. However, he could withstand it, but it did not mean that others could. The pressure of a combat emperor was enough to intimidate everyone in the square. Plop. One by one, the young people fell to the ground. Their faces were filled with helplessness. They were unwilling to accept it. Because once they fell, it meant that they had lost the qualification to continue the assessment. As for the person who fell down, the pressure also disappeared, and he left the scene quietly. 10 breaths passed quickly. There were only 1,000 people left in the square. In other words, the first round of assessment eliminated 9 out of 10 people. It was extremely cruel. The first round of the examination is over. Those who have been eliminated, please leave the stage immediately. The guard commander shouted as he retracted his aura. The moment the pressure was withdrawn, except for Qin Feiyang, everyone's body went soft, and they fell to the ground, gasping for breath. Sweat fell like rain, dripping onto the ground. Mu Qing and Mu Shuer were the same. The city lord and the guard commander glanced at the crowd, and when they saw Qin Feiyang, a hint of surprise appeared in their eyes. "It seems a little too eye-catching." When Qin Feiyang noticed their expressions, his eyes flashed slightly. He also pretended to bend down and put his hands on his knees, panting like a cow. The city lord's face twitched. Isn't this too deliberate? Can't you just pretend a little more? What an interesting little fellow. He whispered. What's his name? The guard commander whispered. He is the young man who injured Luo Yi. I think his name is Su Ping. Su Ping. The city lord muttered to himself as his eyes flickered. In less than 100 breaths, all the eliminated people left the square. Next, let's start the spiritual force test. The guard commander shouted. More than 1,000 people left in the square also regained their strength. They got up and looked at the guard commander expectantly. Only those who have reached the 5th level of spiritual force can enter the next round of assessment. The guard commander waved his hand, and 20 wooden tables appeared, neatly arranged under the steps. Then, he took out 20 spiritual stones, and placed them on 20 wooden tables. Everyone line up one by one. No fighting. Let's start. As the guard commander's voice fell, the 20 people standing in the front immediately stepped forward and pressed their hands on the spiritual stones. As a result, only 2 people's spiritual force reached the 5th level, and the rest failed. The guard commander shouted, "Those who passed the assessment, stand on the right side, and those who didn't, leave quickly." Strange. Qin Feiyang frowned. Brother Su, what's wrong? Mu Shuer looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyang said, "Just let those who haven't reached the 5th level of spiritual force leave. Why bother?" Mu Shuer was stunned. She pursed her lips and smiled. Brother Su, you're wrong. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. If you don't test it, even if you haven't reached the 5th level of spiritual force, you will pretend to be one. Besides, not everyone knows the level of their spiritual force. Many of these people haven't been tested before. And some teenagers, I'm afraid they haven't even condensed their spiritual force. Mu Shuer smiled. That's right. Qin Feiyang nodded. Suddenly, he noticed that Luo Yi and the other 2 were walking towards him. At that moment, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. He pretended not to see it and looked up at the spiritual stone in front of him. The 3 of them walked to Qin Feiyang's side. Seeing this, there was a flash of light in the eyes of Mu Qing and her sister. Luo Yi glanced at the city lord and said in a low voice, "Do you dare to compete with us?" Qin Feiyang pretended not to hear it. Seeing that he was ignored, Luo Yi's face showed a trace of hostility. He sneered. What? You don't dare? Qin Feiyang still ignored him. Luo Yi was about to go crazy. Su Ping, don't go too far. Yan Shi, the burly man, also had a fierce look in his eyes. Ah, Qin Feiyang was stunned. He turned his head to look at Luo Yi and asked, "Are you talking to me?" Mu Qing and her sister looked at each other with a smile on their faces. This guy was really good at pretending. I'm not talking to you. Am I talking to a ghost? Luo Yi growled. He was so angry that smoke came out of his head and his eyes were red. Don't be agitated, don't be agitated. It's my fault. Qin Feiyang reached out and patted him on the shoulder. He asked again, "What did you just say?" Bastard. Luo Yi was about to go crazy. So it turned out that all that talk was for naught? If it weren't for the assessment, and if it weren't for the city lord and the guard commander watching from above, he would definitely fly into a rage. I said, if you have the guts, compete with us. He gritted his teeth and said word by word. Compete? Qin Feiyang was stunned and shook his head. Not interested. Not interested or don't dare? The burly man Yan Shi looked at him contemptuously. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and asked in confusion, "Did I provoke you?" Yan Shi said, "You didn't provoke me, but I just don't like you. Can't I?" Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded and said indifferently, "Who forced you to look? If you don't like me, then don't look, idiot." Who are you calling an idiot? Say it again if you have the guts. Yan Shi's face darkened, and the fierce look in his eyes became more intense. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. Get lost as far as you can. Qin Feiyang glanced at him indifferently and turned his head away. Yan Shi's big fan-like hand suddenly clenched tightly, making cracking sounds. Luo Yi's eyes flashed and said with a smile, Yanshi, calm down. It's not worth getting angry over this kind of trash. Trash. Mu Qing and Mu Shui looked at him in a daze. They really couldn't figure out how this person still had the face to say such words. Thinking back, who was the one who was scared by Qin Feiyang like a stray dog and fled in panic? Wasn't that slapping his own face? Noticing the brother and sister's gaze, Luo Yi sneered. Now we're competing in alchemy. If he doesn't even dare to compete, what is he if not trash? By the way, you should be his friends, right? Why don't you compete with us? Do you have the guts? Luo Yi provoked. Arrogant. Mu Shui's eyes turned cold, but Mu Qing glared at her and looked at Luo Yi with a smile. Although your strength is not that great, I heard that you are very talented in alchemy. How would we dare to compete with you? When he heard the first half of the sentence, Luo Yi was very angry. He even wanted to find a chance to teach the brother and sister a lesson. But when he heard the second half of the sentence, a smug smile appeared on his face. At least you know what's good for you, unlike some people who are clearly trash and still pretend to be calm. How disgusting. Luo Yi glanced at Qin Feiyang and sneered. The disgust on Mu Shui's face became more and more intense. She whispered, Brother Su, you should compete with him so that he won't always find trouble with you. Mu Qing said, That's right. Maybe you can even lure the Tower Master out. Tower Master? Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback and asked in confusion, What do you mean? Rumor has it that the Tower Master is on the top floor of the Pill Pagoda. If someone's alchemy talent satisfies him, he will appear. And he will accept that person as his last disciple and personally teach that person alchemy. But in history, no one has ever been able to alarm him. Mu Qing said. Qin Feiyang raised his head and looked at the top of the Pill Pagoda. His eyes flickered. Stop looking. With your alchemy talent, you want to become the Tower Master's last disciple? It's simply a pipe dream. Luo Yi sneered. Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear. Originally, he wanted to keep a low profile. Because, if no one paid attention to him, the success rate of snatching the heavenly thunder flame would be higher. If he was too high profile, his every move and every word would be scrutinized by others. At that time, it would definitely cause a lot of unnecessary trouble. But if he was valued by the Tower Master and accepted as his last disciple, that would be a different story. The heavenly thunder flame belonged to the Tower Master. As long as he could become the Tower Master's last disciple, there would be more opportunities and it would be easier to snatch it away. It seemed that he had to change his strategy. Whoosh. His eyes flashed and he turned to look at Luo Yi and the other two. These three people could be used. He smiled faintly and asked, How do you want to compete? Agreed? The three of them were stunned. Qin Feiyang said, It's not that you want to compete. Now that I've agreed, why do you still look like you don't want to? If you don't want to, then forget it. Brother Su, I think you misunderstood. It's the two of them who want to compete with you, not me. I'm just a person who wants to join in the fun. The elegant young man Shi Yin smiled. Qin Feiyang looked at the elegant young man. He, who had seen countless people, could tell at a glance that this person was much more difficult to deal with than Luo Yi and Mu Qing. You only have this bit of courage. Chapter 391. Compete in Spiritual Power? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Are these two stupid? Or is it that these two people's spiritual power is also beyond level 10? Otherwise, how could they have such confidence? Seeing Qin Feiyang not speaking for a long time, Luo Yi mocked. Are you afraid again? Qin Feiyang said. If you say we'll compete, then we'll definitely compete. But there has to be a prize, right? Luo Yi sneered. Whoever has the lowest spiritual power will kneel and lie down 3 times around this square. And bark like a dog, Yanshi added. This, Qin Feiyang hesitated, somewhat lacking in confidence. Just say it if you don't dare. No one will laugh at you. The two mocked. Qin Feiyang gritted his teeth and nodded. Okay, today I will risk my life to accompany you. Then he looked at the guard commander and the city lord on the steps and shouted, Commander, City Lord, I have something to say. Everyone's eyes gathered on him at once. The guard commander said, Speak. Luo Yi and Yan Shi want to compete with me in spiritual power. Whoever loses will kneel and lie down 3 times around the square and bark like a dog. I would like to invite the 2 of you to be witnesses. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said, "Don't make a fuss. If you want to make a fuss, make it as big as possible." The people around suddenly whispered to each other. The city lord and the guard were also a little stunned. Nonsense. This commander will not approve of such a ridiculous thing. If you have any objections, you will be disqualified immediately. After the guard commander came back to his senses, he shouted at the 3 of them. The city lord smiled faintly. "I think it's quite interesting." The guard commander was stunned and hurriedly said, "City lord, this is against the rules." "It doesn't matter, the rules are dead, people are alive." The city lord waved his hand, looked at Qin Feiyang and the other 2, and asked, "Do you really want to compete?" Qin Feiyang said helplessly, "I don't want to, but they have to challenge me." "It's not too late to regret now." Luo Yi gave a cold snort and cupped his hands. "City lord, I want to compete with Yan Shi." "Regret?" Qin Feiyang secretly sneered and nodded to the city lord. "All right, it's settled then. The people in front, hurry up, don't delay this city lord from watching the show." The city lord shouted. Cough cough. The guard commander choked on his saliva. Who would have thought that the city lord would actually say such words? He reminded him softly, "City lord, please pay attention to your image." I know. Stop nagging." The city lord waved his hand impatiently. Since the city lord had personally given the order, how could the people in front dare to dawdle? Moreover, they also wanted to watch a good show. Half an hour later. Finally, it was Mu Qing and Mu Shui's turn. Mu Shui whispered, "Brother, are you going to give it your all?" "Yes." "Let's try to alert the Pill Tower's tower master." Mu Qing answered in a low voice. The siblings each walked to a wooden table and placed their hands on the spirit stone. Buzz! The 2 spirit stones kept vibrating and the light became more and more dazzling. Qin Feiyang frowned. This pair of brother and sister really hid their strength well. At the same time, Luo Yi and the other 2, as well as the others, were extremely surprised and bewildered. The city lord and the guard commander also looked at the 2 of them in surprise. Buzz! The spirit stone vibrated again. This was already the 9th time. Were they all at level 10 mental strength? This thought crept into everyone's mind. Buzz! The spirit stone vibrated again. But it was not over. It vibrated twice in a row. Level 12 mental strength. Even the city lord and the guard commander could not remain calm. Qin Feiyang's eyes were also shining. The mental strength that he had displayed so far was at level 10. The siblings had already surpassed him. Buzz! The spirit stone trembled again, and the light it emitted was dazzling. Level 13 mental strength. At this moment, the entire place was silent. It was also at this moment. The siblings' bodies swayed, and they finally retracted their arms. The 2 shook their heads and looked up at the top of the Pill Pagoda at the same time. There was a faint trace of disappointment in their eyes. "How deep are you hiding?" Qin Feiyang muttered. Level 13 mental strength was unheard of in the state capital. He also followed their gaze and looked at the top of the Pill Pagoda. The appearance of 2 level 13 mental strength did not alarm the pagoda master. This person's standards were too high, right? And he said that the pagoda master was not in the Pill Pagoda at all? This is not good. After Luo Yi and Yan Shi came back to their senses, they looked at each other with a trace of worry in their hearts. This pair of siblings had level 13 mental strength. As their friend, how could Su Ping be too weak? The 2 of them poked Shi Yun's back, wanting him to probe Qin Feiyang's background. If there was no chance of winning, it was not too late to back out now. Shi Yun's eyes flashed, and he turned to look at Qin Feiyang. He cupped his hands and smiled. "May I ask, Brother Su, are you close to them?" "No, I only met them when I came to Sky Thunder City. We've only met a few times." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Hearing this, Yan Shi and Luo Yi heaved a sigh of relief. The city lord and the guard commander also came back to their senses, and they were all smiles. The city lord nodded and said, "Very good. These 2 are good seedlings. You have to work harder in the next assessment." Qin Feiyang was stunned. He thought that the city lord would tell Mu Qing and Mu Shui that they did not need to participate in the next assessment and could directly enter the Pill Pagoda. The two of them were completely qualified. However, he did not expect that he would ask them to work harder. The assessment of the Pill Pagoda was really harsh. Thank you for your encouragement, City Lord. We will work hard. Mu Qing and Mu Shui bowed to the City Lord and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. Mu Qing smiled. Brother Su, you didn't expect this, right? Yes. I really didn't expect that these two people who claim to know a thing or two about alchemy would actually have level 13 mental strength. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. Mu Qing smiled faintly. There are many things that you can't just look at the surface. Don't you think so? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. However, he was thinking in his heart. Mu Qing's words seemed to have a hidden meaning. He also noticed that the siblings' eyes were very strange. They seemed to be eager to see the pagoda master, just like him. Brother Su will wait for you over there. Sister, let's go. Mu Qing called Mu Shui, and walked to the right. Luo Yi looked at the siblings' backs and his eyes flashed. He turned to Qin Feiyang and said, Let's start too. Let me go first. Shi Yin stepped forward and secretly placed his hand on the mental stone. Buzz. The mental stone vibrated continuously for 10 times before Shi Yin let go of his hand. He rubbed his dizzy head and turned to face the crowd. He cupped his hands and smiled. Sorry for making a fool of myself. After that, he also walked to the right. Level 10 mental strength is not simple. Qin Feiyang muttered. One had to know that in the sanctum, only Lu Ziyuan and the other two had level 10 mental strength. Morongjing was the only one with level 11 mental strength. Level 12 and level 13 mental strength were unheard of. This showed that the overall level of the Forgotten Land was higher than the spiritual state. This place was full of surprises. To be honest, he didn't want to leave. You three, don't waste everyone's time. Hurry up and start. The guard commander glanced at Qin Feiyang and the other two and frowned slightly. He seemed to be very unhappy. Qin Feiyang nodded and stepped forward. Yan Shi and Luo Yi looked at him in disdain and walked to a wooden table respectively. 3 big hands pressed on the mental stone almost at the same time. Buzz. The 3 mental stones kept vibrating. Once. 3 times. 5 times. 7 times. 9 times. They all vibrated 9 times. Do they all have level 10 mental strength? Everyone stared at the mental stones. The guard commander and the mayor looked at each other and were quite excited. 2 level 13 mental strength. 1 level 10 mental strength. And Su Ping and the other 2 definitely had level 10 mental strength. There were many good seedlings this time. By now, Luo Yi and Yan Shi had begun to feel dizzy and their mental strength was about to dry up. However, when they noticed Qin Feiyang's expression, their eyes were suddenly filled with deep disbelief. They saw Qin Feiyang standing there like an iron pine tree without shaking at all. How did his mental strength dry up? Does he also have level 10 mental strength? Their minds were in a mess. This was because their mental strength had been tested long ago. Like Shi Yin, they were all level 10. If Qin Feiyang's mental stone vibrated again, they would be tied. Even if it was a tie, it would be a great humiliation for them. Soon, the others, the mayor, and the guard commander also noticed Qin Feiyang's situation. They couldn't help but look forward to it. But suddenly, Qin Feiyang's body shook as if he was about to fall. Haha. It turns out that you only have level 9 mental strength. I thought you were very powerful. Trash is indeed trash. If you can't hold it, don't hold it. Seeing this, Luo Yi and Yan Shi retracted their arms, shook their heads hard, and began to laugh. The mayor and Yan Shi frowned, and also showed a look of disappointment. The onlookers even looked at Qin Feiyang with contempt. Since he didn't have this ability, he shouldn't compare with Luo Yi and Yan Shi. Wasn't this asking for humiliation? It's really disappointing. Shi Yin secretly sighed. He also thought that this person's mental strength was very strong, but it turned out that it was only level 9. Level 9 mental strength, in the eyes of others, was considered outstanding. But in his eyes, it was no different from trash. Only Mu Qing and her sister had a bright light in their eyes. Even during the whole process, they didn't look at Luo Yi and Yin Shi. They had been locking their eyes on Qin Feiyang. They could feel that Qin Feiyang's mental strength was far more than this. Trash, look carefully, what is called an alchemy genius. Don't be arrogant in front of us in the future. Luo Yi and Yin Shi laughed. Buzz. The two mental stones vibrated at the same time. Level 10 mental strength. After the mental stones vibrated, the two immediately retracted their arms, feeling dizzy. Their mental strength had been completely exhausted. The guard commander was about to announce the result, but at this moment, the mental stone in Qin Feiyang's hand also vibrated suddenly. What? Everyone was shocked. Wasn't his mental strength exhausted? Why did the mental stone vibrate? Could it be that there was something wrong with the mental stone? Luo Yi and Yin Shi hadn't had time to dispel the dizziness. Hearing the movement, they immediately looked at Qin Feiyang. Chapter 392. It trembled. It actually trembled. He was also a level 10 spiritual force. It must be an illusion, this can't be real. The whole place was silent. Luo Yi and Yin Shi rubbed their eyes hard and looked at it again. The light emitted by the spirit stone was enough to prove that this person was really a level 10 spiritual force. It's actually a tie. The two were dumbstruck. They were both level 10 spiritual force. What qualifications did they have to call the other party a waste? All the previous sarcasm and ridicule was really a big joke. A tie? Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them mockingly and said lightly, "The so-called tie is just your self-righteous thinking." His voice fell. The image crystal in his hand trembled again. Level 11 spiritual force. Everyone's eyes trembled. Luo Yi and Yin Shi directly collapsed to the ground. Not level 10, it was actually level 11. This meant that they lost. It also meant that they had to kneel and crawl 3 laps on the square later and bark like a dog. They regretted it. Why did they take the initiative to stir up trouble? If they didn't provoke him, these things wouldn't have happened at all. Waste, look carefully, what is called an alchemy genius. Don't be arrogant in front of me in the future. Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them contemptuously, and the spirit stone trembled again. Level 12 spiritual force. Yin Shi and Yin Shi were dumbfounded. At the same time, their hearts were extremely bitter. Qin Feiyang said these words, they had said it before, but now it was returned to them. What a great irony. The others were the same. When they thought of how they actually despised this person before, even they couldn't help but laugh. Such a monster, do they have the qualifications to despise him? Compared to this person, they were simply worse than waste. That Shi Yun's face was also green and red. Although no one heard his sigh before, the spiritual force displayed by Qin Feiyang was like an invisible slap, ruthlessly slapping his face. He had never been so embarrassed as now. In his heart, a strong flame of anger was ignited. He was a little angry from embarrassment. The city lord suddenly said, "I understand." The guard commander was stunned and asked, "Understand what?" The crowd below also looked at the city lord. "There's no problem with the spirit stone. You're not hallucinating either." Because the way he fainted earlier was all an act. There was a bitter smile on the city lord's face. Even he had been fooled. This kid really needed to be taught a lesson. Faking it? Everyone was stunned and looked at Qin Feiyang again. He saw Qin Feiyang standing there proudly. His long black hair danced in the wind. His spirit was hale and hearty, and there were no signs of exhaustion at all. Yin Shi and Yin Yu were tricked by him? Everyone looked at each other. They were simply treating the two of them like clowns. Wang. The spirit stone trembled for the 13th time. At this moment, even Mu Qing and her sister were unable to remain calm. They had long expected that Qin Feiyang's spiritual power was very strong, but they did not expect it to be strong to this extent. Now it was on par with them. And the most shocking thing was that Qin Feiyang did not show any signs of fainting at all. What was the background of this guy? Qin Feiyang was also quite surprised. He had thought that the level of his spiritual power might be level 12 or 13 at most. But the results of the test were far beyond his expectations. Wang. The spirit stone trembled for the 14th time. Amazing! Level 14 spiritual power. It's not over yet. How amazing is his spiritual power? People went crazy. The city lord and the guard commander were also trembling. It was because of excitement. The Pill Pagoda had recruited countless disciples, but there had never been a person with level 14 spiritual power. Wang. The spirit stone trembled for the 15th time. Oh my God! How can we live like this? A monster. It's not enough to describe him as a monster that only appears once in 10,000 years. Even the city lord and the guard commander were going crazy. They even suspected that there was something wrong with the spirit stone. At the same time, on the top floor of the Pill Pagoda, a woman in white was sitting cross-legged on a futon. She had long sky-blue hair that was soft and beautiful. Her eyebrows were picturesque, and her temperament was otherworldly. She was like a woman in a painting, stunning beyond compare. And in the void in front of her, an image was flashing. What was displayed in the image was the scene of Qin Feiyang testing his spiritual power. She looked at Qin Feiyang silently, and her bright eyes flickered with an inexplicable light. Wang. The spirit stone trembled for the 16th time. The light in the woman's eyes also became extremely bright. Wang. The spirit stone trembled for the 17th time. Whoosh. The woman couldn't sit still anymore. She suddenly stood up, and her eyes were like two bright moons. The spirit stone trembled for the 18th time. There's actually such a monster? She spoke in disbelief, and her petite body began to tremble. The spirit stone trembled for the 19th time. The woman's breathing became rapid. Wang. When the spirit stone trembled for the 20th time, the woman flashed and disappeared without a trace. In the square, the mayor, the guard commander, Mu Qing and her sister, and Shi Yun were all dumbfounded. The people outside the square, as well as the people in the square, were also full of disbelief. Level 20 spiritual power. Was this a dream? How could there be such a monster in the world? This place fell into a dead silence, and the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. The spirit stone was like a sun at this moment, shining so brightly that it was almost impossible to open one's eyes. And Qin Feiyang's back, which was not considered strong, was like a huge mountain in their eyes, becoming unattainable. However, Qin Feiyang was a little helpless. Level 20 spiritual power was already his limit. The dizziness that had never appeared before finally appeared at this moment. But even though he showed unparalleled talent, he still couldn't make the Pill Tower Master appear. Forget it. Qin Feiyang sighed and withdrew his arm. Although he didn't achieve his goal, he finally tested the true level of his spiritual power. Level 20. This number was enough to show disdain for the world. The light of the spirit stone also dissipated. But no one said a word. They were all immersed in deep shock and couldn't extricate themselves. Whoosh. It was also at this moment. Boom. Accompanied by a loud noise, the door of the pill tower opened. Everyone came back to their senses at this moment and looked at the door. Qin Feiyang was also refreshed. Did he come out? He hurriedly looked over. However, there was no one at the door at all, and no one came out of the pill tower. Greetings, Tower Master. However, the mayor and the guard commander were kneeling on the ground, bowing and kowtowing. There's no one. What are you kowtowing to? Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them in surprise, and then looked at the door. Could this mysterious tower master be invisible? The others had the same thought as him. Su Ping Mu Qing Mu Shuer, come in. I want to test you personally. A voice came from the pill tower. The voice was very pleasant, but it had a great majesty. There's really someone here. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. Mu Qing and Mu Shuer looked at each other, and a glint flashed across their eyes. Meanwhile, the others looked envious. In particular, Shi Yun and the other two did not hide their jealousy at all. Although they still had to be tested, the three of them were already bound to enter the pill tower. Putting all of this aside, just the fact that the pagoda master was personally assessing them was already a supreme honor, because no one had ever enjoyed such treatment before. The mayor got up and looked at Qin Feiyang and the other two. He shouted, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and go in." The three of them looked at each other and strode toward the door. After entering the pill tower, The door closed automatically. In front of them was a hall that was about 20 to 30 meters in size. Other than the wall on the side of the door, there were stone doors on the other 3 walls. There were a total of 10 stone doors, but all of them were tightly shut. And in the center position, a graceful woman was standing there. Her long sky blue hair was like the clear sky, and it was pleasing to the eye. However, she wore an exquisite mask on her cheeks, covering her true face. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 glanced at the stone doors, and then looked at the woman. However, as soon as they met the woman's gaze, they could not help but tremble. This woman did not have any aura on her, but she gave them a deep sense of fear. Her dark eyes were like 2 bottomless pits that could frighten people's souls and make them feel fear from the bottom of their hearts. The woman said, "I'm the Tower Master of the Pill Tower." "Greetings, Tower Master." The 3 of them cupped their hands. "I'm very satisfied with your mentality, especially you, Sumu. Even I haven't seen mentality at level 20. But that doesn't mean you can enter the Pill Tower," the woman said coldly. Qin Feiyang said, "Please enlighten us, Tower Master." The woman pointed at the 10 stone doors and said, "Find any pill refining room. I want to observe your control of the pill fire." Qin Feiyang and the other 2 looked at each other, walked to a stone door, and pushed it open. There was a pill refining room inside, but it was not big, only about 10 meters. However, it was very clean and tidy. Mu Qing and his sister glanced at the pill refining room and walked in. Qin Feiyang also stepped into the pill refining room. It was very hot inside. It was as if he was in a furnace, and he was sweating profusely in an instant. However, Qin Feiyang did not feel it at all. He looked at the stone platform for pill refining, and his eyes shone brightly. He could finally use the flame of heavenly thunder to refine pills. A grade 6 pill fire. He was really looking forward to it. How many pill veins could he refine? Huff. He took a deep breath and temporarily put aside the thought of snatching the flame of heavenly thunder. He pressed the button on the stone platform. A burst of flames immediately rushed out. This flame was not an ordinary flame, but a purple flame. There was also a trace of the power of thunder and lightning in the flame. Qin Feiyang's mind stirred, and a wisp of mentality emerged, tentatively approaching the pill fire. However, his body trembled as soon as he got close. He felt as if there was a flame burning in his mind, and his facial features were distorted. Pain. An indescribable pain. Moreover, as time passed, the pain became more and more intense. He gritted his teeth and endured. His mentality surged out and rushed crazily toward the pill fire. Chapter 393. Time passed bit by bit. For Qin Feiyang, every breath was torture. Not to mention the Mu Qing siblings, who would occasionally let out a miserable groan. Half a day passed. The torture was finally over. After the fusion of the mental power and the heavenly thunder flame, the pain disappeared and was replaced by warmth. Phew! Qin Feiyang exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and wiped off the sweat on his forehead. Looking at the purple alchemy fire, he turned and walked out of the alchemy room, cupped his hands and said, "Pagoda Master, I have completed the fusion with the alchemy fire." Using half a day to fuse, you did not let down your mental power. Go and refine a healing pill for me to see. If you succeed in one try, I will take you in as my last disciple. The woman's tone was very calm, and no emotions could be heard. Qin Feiyang was overjoyed. But immediately after, he became worried. If it was the netherworld devil flame, he was confident that he could refine it in one try even with his eyes closed. But he had to know. Now that he was refining with the heavenly thunder flame, he needed to control the fire again. He could not be as handy as before. The failure rate completely exceeded the success rate. But now he absolutely could not fail. It was not easy to alarm the Pagoda Master. He could not fail at this step. He walked into the alchemy room again. He did not immediately start refining. Staring at the purple flame, he calmed the nervousness in his heart. Phew! 100 breaths passed. He took a deep breath, took out the bronze alchemy furnace, and placed it on the alchemy fire. Then, he took out a set of medicinal materials for the healing pill and the solidifying liquid. Everything was ready. Qin Feiyang focused and began to refine the spiritual liquid. Before each medicinal material entered the alchemy furnace, he would reduce the temperature in the furnace to the lowest. Then it increased bit by bit. He was extremely careful with every step. After refining pills for so long, he had never been so cautious like now. Even when the black-winged king and the white-winged king rebelled, he was not so careful when refining the prolonging life pill for the mermaid emperor. Just refining the spirit liquid alone took him less than an hour. Speaking of which, it was quite ironic. If it was the netherworld devil flame, he could refine hundreds of healing pills in half an hour. Next, he became even more careful when fusing with the spirit liquid. Not even the slightest mistake could occur. However, things didn't go as planned. When the fusion reached the final step, the bronze pill furnace suddenly exploded with a loud bang. Why did the furnace explode? Qin Feiyang was stunned and hurriedly bent down. The fragments of the pill furnace flew over his head and crashed into the walls of the pill refining room, creating glaring sparks. A moment later, Qin Feiyang stood up and looked at the messy alchemy room, his mind full of doubts. He was certain that no matter if it was the heat, time, or control, there was not the slightest mistake. But why did the bronze pill furnace explode? Most importantly, he was only one step away. Just as he was about to succeed, such a thing happened. Wouldn't all the previous efforts be for naught? Do you know why you failed? The woman's voice suddenly sounded in Qin Feiyang's mind. War Master. Qin Feiyang felt a chill in his heart. Only experts above the War Master level could directly send sound transmissions. He turned to look at the woman and asked doubtfully, why? The woman sent a sound transmission. Because a second-grade pill furnace can't withstand the burning of the heavenly thunder flame. So that's how it is. Qin Feiyang muttered and asked, what about a third-grade pill furnace? Third and fourth-grade pill furnaces are the same. Only fifth-grade and above pill furnaces will not explode. The woman sent a sound transmission. Then why did you ask me to refine pills? Qin Feiyang was a little annoyed. A fifth-grade or above pill furnace was simply an extravagant hope for him right now. With this person's brain, it was impossible for him not to think that he did not have a fifth-grade pill furnace, but still wanted him to refine it. Wasn't this clearly trying to scam him? The woman did not say anything and looked at Mu Qing's alchemy room. Qin Feiyang did not continue refining and left the alchemy room. Without a fifth-grade or above pill furnace, it was useless. Boom. At this time, the door opened. The city lord strode in and said respectfully, Pagoda Master, the spiritual force test has been completed. When can we begin the third test? The woman asked. How many people passed? The city lord said, about 500 people. Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. Another half of them were eliminated. The woman pondered for a moment and said, let Mu Qing and Mu Shui in after I finish the test. Yes. The city lord responded respectfully, then turned around and left. The door of the tower also closed. The third test was to test the control of alchemy fire. This test required alchemy fire, so naturally they had to enter the alchemy room. In the past, the city lord could make the decision by himself. But it was different now. The pagoda master appeared in person, and everything had to be approved by her. Time flew by. Another half a day passed. At this time, night had fallen outside. Mu Qing and his sister finally walked out of the alchemy room. Mu Qing cupped his hands and said, Pagoda Master, sorry to keep you waiting. Go and refine a healing pill. If you succeed on the first try, I will take you as my last disciples. The woman said expressionlessly. The brother and sister were immediately overjoyed and quickly ran into the alchemy room. After they were ready, the brother and sister took out their alchemy furnaces. Qin Feiyang frowned as soon as he saw their alchemy furnaces, because their alchemy furnaces were also second grade. He turned to look at the woman again. The woman's eyes were calm and she didn't say anything. She just looked at the brother and sister silently. Qin Feiyang was puzzled. She knew that the furnace would explode, but she still asked them to refine pills. What was this woman trying to do? And Mu Qing and his sister obviously didn't know that a second-grade alchemy furnace couldn't withstand the burning of the sky thunder flame. Soon, when Mu Shui was refining the spiritual liquid of the third medicinal ingredient, the alchemy furnace exploded. She walked out with a disappointed look. The woman didn't say anything. Mu Shui walked to Qin Feiyang and asked in a low voice, "Brother Su, did your furnace explode too?" Qin Feiyang nodded. Another moment passed. When Mu Qing was refining the spiritual liquid of the last medicinal ingredient, the alchemy furnace also exploded. "Come out." The woman finally spoke. Mu Qing walked out dejectedly. The woman said coldly, "It's not your fault that the furnace exploded. It's because your alchemy furnaces are too low grade." Hearing this, the brother and sister felt a little better. The woman changed the topic and said again, But what?" The brother and sister's hearts were in suspense again. The woman said, "You've disappointed me." Both of their hearts sank. The woman said, "Your furnaces exploded when you were refining the spiritual liquid. This means that your control of the alchemy fire is not as good as Su Ping's." Mu Qing was a little dissatisfied and frowned. Then when did Su Ping have his alchemy furnace? He exploded at the last step of fusing the spiritual liquid. If he was given a 5th-grade alchemy furnace, he would definitely be able to refine it successfully. Under the same conditions, if you were given a 5th-grade alchemy furnace, you wouldn't be able to succeed on your first try. So you've lost. Su Ping is officially my last disciple. The woman said indifferently. Qin Feiyang was stunned and his heart was suddenly full of surprise. Mu Qing took a deep look at Qin Feiyang and nodded. "Okay, I'm convinced." He had to be convinced. Qin Feiyang's alchemy talent was obvious to all. There was no comparison at all. There was nothing wrong with becoming the last disciple of the pagoda master. The woman waved her hand, and the pagoda door opened again. She said, "City Lord, bring them in for the assessment." After saying that, she rolled up Qin Feiyang and the other two and flew to the top floor of the Pill Pagoda. Soon, the 4 of them entered a hall. There was nothing in the hall. It was 50 to 60 meters in size. On the opposite wall, there were only 4 stone doors in total. 3 of the stone doors had numbers. They were number 1, number 2, and number 3. And on the stone door in the center, there was not a single word. "Your talent is not bad. I'll give you the number 2 and 3 alchemy rooms. If there's anything you don't understand, you can come to the number 1 alchemy room to find me." The woman looked at Mu Qing and said, "Thank you, Pagoda Master." The two hurriedly bowed. The woman said again, "Su Ping, you're in the number 1 alchemy room." Qin Feiyang nodded. The woman glanced at the 3 of them, opened the only stone door without a number, and walked in. The stone door also slowly closed. Mu Shui smiled. "Big Brother Su, congratulations." "What are you congratulating me for? Although I've become a last disciple, my treatment is not much different from yours." Qin Feiyang shook his head. To be honest, he really didn't see any advantage of being a last disciple. "Still not satisfied? Do you know that your identity as a last disciple is enough to make anyone bow to you?" Mu Qing rolled her eyes at him. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. These were not what he wanted at all. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and asked doubtfully, "Why don't I see anyone else in the Pill Pagoda?" Mu Qing said, "Aren't they still in the assessment?" No. What I mean is, doesn't the Pill Pagoda recruit disciples every 5 years? What about the previous disciples? Why don't I see them?" Qin Feiyang was puzzled. "So this is what you're asking?" Mu Qing suddenly understood and said with a smile, "The previous disciples have all left." "Left?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "The Pill Pagoda is not a force. Forget it, I won't explain it to you in detail. In short, the Pill Pagoda is actually a place to cultivate alchemists. Those who enter the Pill Pagoda can only stay inside for 2 years. After 2 years, they will be invited out." Mu Qing said. Mu Shui smiled and said, "Big Brother Su, your last disciple is included." "There's such a thing?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Others cultivated talents for their own use, and to strengthen their own forces. However, The pill pagoda did the complete opposite and cultivated talents for others. Did the pagoda master have nothing better to do? Don't think about it. The thoughts of such a big shot are not something we can understand. Mu Qing patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder and turned to look at Mu Shui, asking, Sister, which alchemy room do you want? Mu Shui glanced at the second and third alchemy rooms and said with a smile, Anything is fine. All right then, I'll take a loss and let you have the second alchemy room. Mu Qing smiled, and then entered the third alchemy room. Mu Shui looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, Big brother Su, when you're free, can you guide me in alchemy? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and puzzled. Didn't the pagoda master just say that I can ask her if I don't understand? Do you still need me to guide you? What a blockhead. Mu Shui rolled her eyes at him and entered the second alchemy room without looking back. What do you mean? Chapter 394. The alchemy room was very large, about 200 to 300 meters. There was a separate alchemy room, cultivation room and lounge. And it was very neat and clean. But for the cultivation room and lounge, Qin Feiyang turned a blind eye to them and went straight into the alchemy room. The first thing he saw was an alchemy furnace. That alchemy furnace was dark green all over, with a giant python carved on it. And the surface of the alchemy furnace flickered with rays of dazzling treasure light. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. The alchemy furnace that would be placed here should be at least a 5th-grade alchemy furnace. If he could take it for himself, but thinking of this, he sighed deeply again. Such a precious alchemy furnace, the pagoda master would definitely not let him take it away. Then, he bit his finger, a drop of blood dripped on the alchemy furnace. 1st and 2nd-grade alchemy furnaces could be used without having to recognize the owner. But 3rd-grade and above alchemy furnaces required a drop of blood to recognize the owner and sign a blood contract before they could be used freely. The blood was quickly absorbed by the alchemy furnace. The alchemy furnace was also suffused with a faint blood light. When the blood light faded and the blood contract was formed, a piece of information also entered Qin Feiyang's mind. 6th-grade alchemy furnace, flying snake cauldron. Qin Feiyang's spirit was lifted. It was actually a 6th-grade alchemy furnace. His breathing also became rapid. The desire that had been suppressed with great difficulty once again emerged uncontrollably. And it was even more intense than before. But when he thought of the pagoda master's strength, it was like a wake-up call, and he quickly calmed down. After pondering for a moment, he pressed the button on the stone platform. A purple flame, like a volcanic eruption, spewed out. The temperature in the alchemy room also rose rapidly, like a big furnace. Qin Feiyang's mind moved, mental force emerged, and rushed towards the alchemy fire. The alchemy fire in the first alchemy room was dozens of times higher quality than the alchemy fire on the first floor of the pill pagoda. It took him a full 2 days to successfully fuse it. Then, he took out 10 sets of medicinal herbs for healing pills. The alchemy fire here was also more difficult to control than the alchemy fire on the first floor. The 10 sets of medicinal herbs were all scrapped one after another, and he found controlling the heavenly thunder flame consumed more mental force than controlling the nether devil flame. But it was also because of this that he slowly familiarized himself with the heavenly thunder flames, and could finally retract and release them freely. After resting for a while, he took out a set of medicinal ingredients for the healing pill, and began to refine it. Every step was done in an orderly manner without the slightest mistake. 100 breaths later, the healing pill was finally ready. Qin Feiyang caught it in his heart and hurriedly looked down. The pill veins shone brightly like the sun, illuminating the entire alchemy room. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He carefully counted, and discovered to his pleasant surprise that there were actually 5 pill marks. Furthermore, every single elixir vein emitted an equally resplendent radiance. 5. Qin Feiyang was so excited that his arms were trembling. As long as he could obtain the flame of heavenly thunder and the soaring serpent cauldron, even in the imperial capital, he would have the capital to look down on everything. Putting down the healing pills, he took out 100 sets of bone replenishing pills, 100 sets of body-tempering pills, 100 sets of qi-gathering pills, and 100 sets of battle qi pills. Refining these pills was for no other reason than to be more familiar with the flame of heavenly thunder. In this way, when refining the potential pill and Juku yellow dragon pill, the failure rate could be reduced. After spending half a day, he finally refined all the medicinal ingredients into pills. However, the success rate was only 50%. This was obviously not enough. He simply entered the ancient castle and asked Fatso for 10,000 sets of qi-gathering pills and 100,000 sets of battle qi pills, and continued to refine. Because the medicinal ingredients for the potential pill and Juku yellow dragon pill were too precious, even if it was just a waste of one stock, his heart would ache. So, without 100% confidence, he would not refine it. Qi-gathering pills and battle qi pills were also useful, so he might as well take the opportunity to refine more, especially the battle qi pills. Next, Qin Feiyang did not go out of the door and stayed in the alchemy room all day. When his mental strength was exhausted, he would continue to refine after recovering. Mu Shui came to find him a few times, but every time, she returned empty-handed. The pagoda master did not appear again. As for the other people's assessment, it had long ended. Those who successfully entered the pill pagoda, including Qin Feiyang and the other two, were only a mere 50 people. Out of 10,000 people, only 50 were left. This elimination rate was even crueler than imagined. But there was no doubt. Those who could successfully enter the pill pagoda were all talents with a lot of room for plasticity. In the future, they would definitely have extraordinary achievements in alchemy. But the premise was that they did not die prematurely. And as time passed day by day, Qin Feiyang became more and more familiar with the heavenly thunder flame. Whether it was the success rate or the speed of refining pills, they were also improving day by day. Now he could refine a pill every 20 breaths. Time flew by. On this day, Qin Feiyang, who was refining pills, suddenly felt a sharp pain in his heart. In a daze, the medicinal ingredients in the furnace were instantly wasted, accompanied by a burst of black smoke, turning into black ash. He hurriedly took out the jade bottle and drank a drop of transparent liquid. The sharp pain disappeared, but Qin Feiyang fell silent. The sharp pain caused by his heart made him think of a very cruel question. All along he had wanted to take the heavenly thunder flame for himself, but he neglected one person. This person was the ugly old woman who forced him to come to the Forgotten Land. Even if he could snatch the heavenly thunder flame, when he left the Forgotten Land, he would give it to the ugly old woman. In other words, the heavenly thunder flame had no share at all, unless he stayed in the Forgotten Land for the rest of his life. But this was simply unrealistic. Not to mention that he had not yet avenged his great hatred. The Black Fiend poison did not allow him to stay in the Forgotten Land forever. What do I have to do to get rid of the Black Fiend poison? Qin Feiyang frowned. As long as he could get rid of the Black Fiend poison, he would not be afraid of the ugly old woman's threat. That's right. Don't I have a cheap master now? She's so strong. Why don't I ask her? Maybe she has a way. With this thought, Qin Feiyang stood up straight and looked at the two qiankuan bags on the stone platform, his eyes full of smiles. The Black Fiend poison acted up, indicating that another month had passed. He had already refined 10,000 sets of qi-gathering pills medicinal ingredients, and a total of more than 500 sets of medicinal ingredients were wasted. And when he was refining the battle qi pill, 100,000 sets of medicinal ingredients, only 100 sets of medicinal ingredients were wasted. Such a failure rate was almost negligible. After refining the remaining dozen or so sets of battle qi pills medicinal ingredients, Qin Feiyang took the two qiankuan bags and entered the castle. Seeing Qin Feiyang appear, Wolf King immediately stood up and said angrily, "Why did you only come in now? Quickly refine a potential pill for your brother." Qin Feiyang's eyes had a trace of surprise and he asked, "You broke through?" "Nonsense. It's already been 2 months. If I don't break through, would I still be the peerless wolf god?" Wolf King said angrily, but his eyes were full of pride. So fast? Qin Feiyang was stunned. But thinking about it carefully, it had indeed been 2 months since Wolf King went into seclusion. He thought for a moment, then laughed. Don't be anxious. Even if I refine a potential pill for you now, no one will use their pressure to help you. Wolf King said, Don't you have a master? Are you an idiot? If she finds out about the potential pill, forget about snatching the heavenly thunder flame. I might not even be able to keep my life. Qin Feiyang glared at Wolf King in annoyance, took out a qianquan bag, and handed it over to Lu Hong. There are more than 9,000 qi gathering pills here, and they all have 5 pill veins. It should be enough for you to recover to the War King realm. After Lu Hong took the qianquan bag, Qin Feiyang threw the qianquan bag, containing the battle qi pills, to Fatso. You can even refine a pill with 5 pill veins. Boss, why don't you go to heaven? When we get back to the city, the eyes of those old fogies from the Lu clan and the Dong clan will pop out when they see these pills. Fatty took out a battle qi pill and toyed with it as he spoke in a mocking tone. After 2 months of seclusion, Fatso had also broken through to the 6-star Battle King realm, and was working hard to break through to the 7-star Battle King realm. As for the pangolin, it had also improved a little, but it was still stuck at the 4-star Battle King realm. This made it want to go crazy, but it also felt helpless. Don't think too much, we'll talk about the future in the future. Give me the ingredients for the potential pill, and Juku Yellow Dragon pill. I want to refine all of them first. Qin Feiyang said, his eyes shining. It was better to be safe than sorry. If the heavenly thunder flame was really snatched away by the ugly old woman, he wouldn't have wasted his efforts. Fatso took out a qianquan pouch and threw it to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang grabbed the qianquan pouch and was about to leave when he suddenly said, Have you sorted out the ingredients you looted from the exchange pavilion's warehouse? Not yet. Fatso shook his head. Qin Feiyang said, Then don't be in a hurry to go into seclusion. Help me sort them out first. The pangolin said angrily, Are you kidding? How long will it take to sort out so many ingredients? I have to cultivate, I don't have time. Wolf King glared and shouted, Do you still want the potential pill? Stop talking nonsense and get to work. That's right, how can there be such a thing as a free lunch in this world? Fatso said disdainfully. Actually, it's not troublesome. These ingredients were already categorized when they were in the warehouse, so it's easy to sort them out. Qin Feiyang smiled and appeared in the alchemy room again, starting to refine the potential pill. The more patterns the potential pill had, the easier it would be to open the door of potential. After controlling the fire and refining a few potential pills, Qin Feiyang slowly became familiar with the process. A total of 230 sets of ingredients for the potential pill were all refined in 4 hours. Not a single set was wasted. Next, he began to refine the potential pill and the Juku Yellow Dragon pill. Back then, with the help of Ren Wushuang, he obtained a total of 52 sets of ingredients for the potential pill and 61 sets of ingredients for the Juku Yellow Dragon pill. Before Ren Wushuang went to the inner palace, he gave Ren Wushuang 2 potential pills and 1 Juku Yellow Dragon pill. As such, there were still 50 sets of potential pills left. There were still 60 sets of Juku Yellow Dragon pills left. After spending 2 hours, all of them were refined. The potential pill was blood red in color, as if it was condensed from blood, emitting a strange fragrance. The Juku Yellow Dragon pill was earthy yellow in color. At first glance, it looked like a mud ball, but the surface was round and flawless. Qin Feiyang grabbed a Juku Yellow Dragon pill, his eyes shining brightly. Chapter 395. He really wanted to take one right now. It would definitely allow him to directly step into the War Emperor realm. But this thought was suppressed by him in the end. It was better to wait until he finished copying the battle formula and broke through to the War Emperor realm before taking it. At that time, he had stepped into the 5-star War Emperor, 6-star War Emperor in one go. This kind of leap and breakthrough, just thinking about it made him excited. After using 3 qianquan bags to store the 3 types of pills, Qin Feiyang once again entered the castle. Fatso and the others were still counting. Although they were categorized in the warehouse, the number was too large. It wasn't that easy to sort them out. After placing the 3 Qiankuan bags on the counter, Qin Feiyang left the castle and walked out of the alchemy room. When he saw the situation in the hall outside, he couldn't help but be stunned. He remembered that when he first came here, there was nothing in the hall. But now there was a tea table made of jade placed against the wall. Beside the tea table, there were 3 chairs covered with a layer of snow-white mink fur. At this moment, Mu Qing and his sister were sitting on the chairs, leisurely sipping tea. Mu Qing glanced at him and said with a faint smile, "You're finally willing to come out. Big brother Su, you've been in the pill tower for a month, and this is the first time you've walked out of the alchemy room." Mu Shui also put down her teacup and stood up with a smile. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "You guys are living quite comfortably. We call this a balance between work and rest. Unlike you, who only knows how to cultivate in seclusion all day and refine pills. How boring. Do you want a cup? This is the tea from my hometown. It tastes pretty good." Mu Qing raised the teapot and teacup in his hand. "Forget it, I still have something to look for the pagoda master." Qin Feiyang smiled and walked to the front of the unnumbered stone door. He stretched out his hand and gently knocked. Seeing this, Mu Qing and his sister looked at each other, and a light flashed in the depths of their eyes. The stone door opened silently. Qin Feiyang glanced at the layout inside. It was no different from the number 1 alchemy room. There were independent alchemy rooms, resting rooms, and cultivation rooms. However, it was several times bigger than alchemy room 1. At this moment, the tower master was sitting cross-legged on a praying mat in the cultivation room. He still wore an exquisite mask on his face. She opened her eyes, revealing a pair of deep, dark eyes. She said calmly, "Come in." Qin Feiyang walked in. The pagoda master asked, "Why are you looking for me?" Qin Feiyang walked to the door of the cultivation room. After hesitating for a moment, he cupped his hands and said, "Junior has been poisoned by a strange poison. I would like to ask Senior to take a look and see if there is any way to cure it." Strange poison. The pagoda master was stunned for a moment before he said indifferently, "Let's talk about the strange poison later. Let me ask you first. Now that you are my disciple, why do you still call me Senior?" If it were any other youngster, they would have already addressed him as master. However, this kid had an unwilling look on his face. Furthermore, he had been in the pill pagoda for so long, yet he only came to find her now. It seemed that in his eyes, her master was just a decoration. Qin Feiyang was a little stunned. He didn't expect this woman to ask such a question. He thought for a moment, then cupped his hands and said, "To tell Senior the truth, Junior is used to being alone. I'm not used to being restrained." The pagoda master frowned and said, "I don't seem to have restrained you." Qin Feiyang said, "Indeed you don't now, but can you guarantee that you won't in the future?" Yeah. The pagoda master was surprised. Since the establishment of the pill pagoda, this was the first time someone dared to question her. Her eyes flashed slightly and said, "Aren't you afraid that I will drive you out of the pill pagoda after hearing this?" Qin Feiyang laughed. "Senior, as the master of the pill pagoda, you shouldn't be so narrow-minded, right?" "Interesting." The pagoda master muttered secretly. "You will leave in the future anyway, so it's up to you. Now tell me, what kind of poison are you poisoned with?" Qin Feiyang said, "Black fiend poison." "Black fiend poison?" The pagoda master lowered his head and pondered for a moment before asking, "What are its characteristics?" "The black fiend poison is made from 99 kinds of poisons and pills. Once taken, it will fuse with the heart. When the poison takes effect, the heart will feel a sharp pain. Now, I have to take an antidote every month. But this antidote can only delay the effect, it can't eliminate it." Qin Feiyang said, 99 kinds? The pagoda master was quite surprised and said, "Show me the antidote." Qin Feiyang hurriedly took out the jade bottle and handed it over with both hands, his eyes full of expectation. The pagoda master grabbed the jade bottle, poured out a drop of transparent liquid, and carefully observed for a moment. Then, she put it on the tip of her nose and sniffed. Finally, she put it to her mouth and tasted it. Amazing! At that moment, she was shocked. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang's eyelids twitched. This bottle of antidote is made from 33 kinds of pollen and 33 kinds of butterfly saliva. But after special processing, you can't smell the fragrance of the flowers. This kind of antidote is not something that ordinary people can refine, the pagoda master said. Pollen? Qin Feiyang frowned. No wonder there were all kinds of flowers and butterflies in the Butterfly Valley. It turned out that these were all the antidotes. Senior, as long as you collect 99 kinds of pollen, 99 kinds of butterfly saliva can cure the black fiend poison? Qin Feiyang asked. How can it be so simple? To make the antidote, you need to know the order and steps. If the order and steps are wrong, not only can it not be detoxified, but it will also become highly toxic. Only the person who made the black fiend poison can make the antidote, the pagoda master said. Qin Feiyang's eyes were suddenly full of disappointment. It seemed that the heavenly thunder flame had to be handed over to the sloppy old woman. But just as Qin Feiyang was about to despair, the pagoda master said again. But, however, she just said these two words and then fell silent again. Senior, but what? As long as it can eradicate the black fiend poison, I am willing to do anything, Qin Feiyang hurriedly said. The pagoda master said. First tell me, why are you poisoned? Qin Feiyang's heart trembled. In his mind, countless thoughts flashed in an instant. Suddenly, his heart moved, and he said helplessly, the poisoning is also related to the acceptance of a disciple. What do you mean? The pagoda master was puzzled. In the past, this junior met an old witch during one of my training. She took a fancy to Junior's talent and insisted that Junior be her disciple. Junior didn't want to, so she forced Junior to take the black fiend poison. And she also made a 5-year agreement with Junior. If Junior can eradicate the black fiend poison by himself within 5 years, she will let Junior go. But if it can't be eradicated, then go and be her disciple. Qin Feiyang said with a depressed face. The pagoda master was stunned and said, you don't want to be someone else's disciple? The old witch in this boy's mouth could make such a poison, which meant that her strength must be very strong. To be the disciple of such a strong person, one should feel very happy. But this kid would rather be poisoned than agree to it. She really wanted to open Qin Feiyang's head to see what was inside. Junior likes to be free and unrestrained, and I prefer to rely on myself for everything. If I find a strong master, sooner or later, I will become lazy. Junior doesn't like this feeling. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said. The pagoda master looked at him in a daze. Qin Feiyang's answer made her very satisfied. This kind of young man who didn't want to rely on anyone was basically extinct now. It was no wonder that he had such strength at such a young age. His mind was also so flexible. The pagoda master asked. How old are you now? Qin Feiyang said, 18. Only 18. The pagoda master was shocked and asked calmly. You have suffered a lot along the way, right? I have tasted all the joys and sorrows, but the harvest is also a lot. After all, the effort and the harvest are proportional. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. Good temperament. The pagoda master nodded. After a conversation, even she couldn't help but have the idea of forcibly taking Qin Feiyang as a disciple. Such an outstanding young man. She really couldn't bear to let him go. However, she suppressed this thought. Some things couldn't be forced. Otherwise, it would be counterproductive. Qin Feiyang said nervously. Senior, do you have a way to detoxify the black evil poison? Yes. The pagoda master nodded. Qin Feiyang was overjoyed. The pagoda master said. I just thought about it. A detoxification pill with more than 5 elixir patterns should be able to directly eradicate the poison in your body. What? Qin Feiyang was stunned. It was that simple? Ordinary detoxification pills definitely won't work. But a detoxification pill with 5 elixir patterns is very effective. But I can only refine a detoxification pill with 4 elixir patterns now. The pagoda master frowned slightly. Thank you, Senior, for your guidance. Junior will tell you first. Qin Feiyang bowed and thanked, then turned around and ran out in a hurry. The pagoda master couldn't refine a detoxification pill with 5 elixir patterns, but he could. Hurry up and give it a try. Seeing Qin Feiyang run out, Mu Qing smiled and said, Brother Su, come over and let's have a chat. Let's talk later. Qin Feiyang said without looking back and ran into the #1 alchemy room. What is this guy doing in such a hurry? The brother and sister looked at each other, their faces full of doubts. Alchemy room. Qin Feiyang took out a few sets of herbs for the detoxification pill, and stared at the soaring serpent cauldron, his eyes shining. Then, he exhaled, calmed down, and began to refine pills. But his heart couldn't calm down at all. Since he was poisoned by the black evil poison, his heart had been tense. 7 months after coming to the Forgotten Land, he had been tense for 7 months. Now that there was finally hope to remove it, one could imagine how excited he was. In the end, after wasting 5 sets of herbs, he finally refined a detoxification pill. The 5 elixir patterns shone brightly and dazzlingly. However, at this moment, he looked at the detoxification pill, but hesitated. Because the pagoda master had said very clearly that it should be possible. He didn't say that it would definitely work. He was afraid of being happy for nothing. Even if it doesn't succeed, I can think of other ways. Finally, Qin Feiyang gritted his teeth and threw the detoxification pill into his mouth. Then, he hurriedly sank his mind into his body. The pill melted in his mouth. An extremely majestic energy like a wave rolled towards his limbs and bones. Chapter 396. The heart was the most important part of the human body. It was also the most vulnerable part. Being poisoned to the heart was equivalent to taking half a step into the gates of hell. Qin Feiyang had had enough of the days of being on edge. Please, it must succeed. He prayed silently in his heart. When the energy of the healing pill poured into the heart, it wrapped around the heart. At the same time, the energy that was rushing to other places also seemed to have found a target and rushed to the heart. Qin Feiyang could clearly feel that the energy was quickly seeping into the heart. It was at this time. A sharp pain came from the heart and swept through the whole body in an instant. Caught off guard, Qin Feiyang lay on the ground, his face pale with pain and cold sweat. He felt that at this moment, there was a sharp thorn that was gradually being pulled out of his heart. That kind of pain almost suffocated him. And it was getting stronger and stronger. Qin Feiyang simply sat cross-legged on the ground, gritted his teeth, and looked inside his heart. Then, a head emerged from the black stream of qi from the heart. The black airflow was the poison of the black fiend. And the energy of the healing pill also gathered in the heart and constantly seeped inside. The poison of the black fiend was forced out little by little. Seeing this situation, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but be excited. This meant that it was really useful. Time passed by breath. About 100 breaths later, puff, he spat out a mouthful of black blood. His pale face also quickly climbed up with a touch of blood. This meant that the poison of the black fiend was finally eliminated. The sharp pain also disappeared. Swish. He suddenly got up. His eyes were as bright as the moon. His whole mental state was unprecedentedly good. There was still more than half of the energy of the detoxification pill left, constantly seeping into the heart and eliminating the remaining poison in the heart. A moment later, all the toxins had finally been completely removed. I'm free. Qin Feiyang looked inside his heart and clenched his hands together. Haha. Old witch, let's see how you can control me now. He couldn't help but laugh. The flame of heavenly thunder belonged to him. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Qin Feiyang opened the stone door and strode out. And, what are you doing inside? Why are you sweating? Mu Qing and her brother looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyang smiled brilliantly. He walked up to the pagoda master's door and knocked. The stone door quickly opened. Qin Feiyang walked in and stood at the door of the cultivation room. He smiled and said, I've finally gotten rid of the problem in my heart. Senior, thank you. The pagoda master stared blankly and said in surprise, In that case, you can refine medicinal pills with 5 pill veins? Qin Feiyang nodded. The pagoda master was secretly speechless. This kid's alchemy talent was indeed extraordinary. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He cupped his hands and said, Senior, this junior has a presumptuous request. The pagoda master said, speak. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, the flame of heavenly thunder is famous throughout the world. I wonder if this junior has the honor of seeing its true appearance? The pagoda master thought for a moment and nodded. Sure. Qin Feiyang was stunned. So straightforward. The pagoda master continued. But the prerequisite is that you have to call the seat master. Qin Feiyang's face twitched. Calling master and having a chance to obtain the flame of heavenly thunder. This deal was also quite worth it. But for some reason he just could not call out. Perhaps in his subconscious mind, no one was qualified to be his master. I can only think of other ways. Qin Feiyang muttered secretly. If there was really no other way, he would simply give up. Anyway, there was no black fiend poison bothering him now. It was also not a must to snatch the flame of heavenly thunder. Moreover, he already snatched enough pillfire now. As long as the blood contract was erased, it could let the Netherworld Devil Flame directly evolve to Grade 4. Although the Grade 4 Netherworld Devil Flame could not compare to the flame of heavenly thunder, one had to know that the Netherworld Devil Flame could be upgraded. But the flame of heavenly thunder could not be upgraded. Therefore, to really calculate, the value of the Netherworld Devil Flame was much higher than the flame of heavenly thunder. Seeing Qin Feiyang's expression, the pagoda master could not help but frown and said, You really don't want to be the seat's disciple? Qin Feiyang did not answer, cupped his hands and said, Senior, this junior will take his leave first. The pagoda master nodded. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, turned around and walked towards the stone door. Wait. Suddenly, the pagoda master stopped him again. Qin Feiyang stopped, turned around and said, Senior, do you have any other instructions? The pagoda master got up and said, Forget it, I'll let you take a look and satisfy your curiosity. Qin Feiyang was taken aback and said happily, Thank you, Senior. The pagoda master walked out of the cultivation room and went straight into the alchemy room. Qin Feiyang hurriedly followed in. This alchemy room was more than 200 meters in size. On the stone platform for alchemy, there was no pill furnace, not a speck of dust. It was enough to show that this woman did not often refine pills. Qin Feiyang looked around, and his gaze suddenly locked onto a corner on the left. In that corner, there was a tightly shut stone door. The pagoda master entered the alchemy room and directly walked to the front of the stone door, saying, The heavenly thunder flame is inside. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. Buzz. The pagoda master's delicate body trembled, and a stream of battle chi emerged, condensing into a battle chi barrier. Next, she cut her arm, and with a wave of her arm, a drop of blood flew towards the stone door. When the blood landed on the stone door immediately bloomed with rays of light. Following closely, it was activated silently. A shocking heat wave immediately surged out. At the same time, there were also waves of purple flames that continued to surge out from the door. Despite the isolation of the battle chi barrier, Qin Feiyang could still feel an astonishing heat enveloping him. If not for the pagoda master's battle chi barrier, without any luck he would have been burned to ashes in an instant. Taking a deep breath and calming down the shock in his heart, Qin Feiyang took a step to the side and looked inside. What entered his line of sight was a sea of purple flames. Tongues of fire spewed out, waves of fire surged. Strands of lightning power were like small snakes, darting around in the sea of fire. But because the flames were too strong, he couldn't see where the heavenly thunder flame was. If you want to see the true appearance of the heavenly thunder flame, you must first stop the recovery of the heavenly thunder flame. But not now. Right now there are many people refining pills. If you suddenly stop the recovery, it will affect them. Wait until 2 years later, when everyone leaves the pill pagoda. I can let you see its true appearance. The pagoda master said. Junior understands. Qin Feiyang nodded. The pagoda master waved her hand, closed the stone door, and said indifferently, Think about it again. If you become my disciple, there will be benefits for you. Junior will seriously consider it. By the way, Senior, can Junior go out for a while? Qin Feiyang asked. Go out for what? The pagoda master looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyang laughed. Isn't this because the poison has been eradicated? I want to go out and celebrate. The pagoda master pondered for a moment, then said, It seems like you don't need my guidance, so do as you wish. Thank you, pagoda master. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said, Next. He did not stay any longer and returned to Alchemy Room 1. After closing the stone door, he immediately entered the castle. Fatso immediately asked, Boss, how is it? Is there a chance? Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment, then said, I have decided to give up on snatching the heavenly thunder flame. What? Fatso and the others looked at each other in dismay. 3 reasons. Firstly, that stone door requires the blood of the pagoda master to open. The pagoda master is an expert of the war master realm, and might even surpass the war master. It's simply unrealistic to obtain blood from her body. Secondly, the heavenly thunder flame is currently in a state of recovery. I've just experienced it myself. It's extremely terrifying. Even if we're lucky enough to obtain the pagoda master's blood and open the stone door, we won't be able to get close to the heavenly thunder flame. Thirdly, I can't afford to wait for 2 years. I'm already 18 years old, and I'll be 20 in 2 years. Before I turn 20, I must enter the imperial capital, Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. Fatso, Lu Hong, Wolf King, and the pangolin all fell silent. A moment later, Lu Hong nodded. I agree with our current conditions. To snatch the heavenly thunder flame, it is indeed not mature. Fatso frowned. But how are we going to explain it to that old witch? Qin Feiyang said. We'll talk about it after we leave the Forgotten Land. All right, since we've already gotten a lot of benefits, let's leave then. Wolf King grinned. Fatso and Lu Hong also laughed. What are you laughing at? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Boss, we've sorted out all the herbs from the warehouse of the trading pavilion, including the herbs of the Lu tribe and the He tribe. We've obtained a total of 330 sets of red fire glaze pill herbs. The ingredients for the potential pill, 210 sets. Potential pill herbs, 42 sets. 9 Chu yellow dragon pill herbs, 39 sets. As for the other medicinal herbs, pills, and gold coins, they had yet to be counted. If we include the 3rd-grade alchemy fire of the 3 super tribes, it's even more amazing. The wealth we have now is probably enough to buy the entire spirit state. Fatso was beaming with joy, his saliva flying everywhere. So much. Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. This was completely beyond his expectations. Thinking back to when he was in Iron Ox Town, a gold coin was a considerable amount of wealth for him. But how long has it been? 3 years. In just 3 years, the wealth he possessed was unparalleled. One had to know that he was only 18 years old now. When others were 18 years old, they were still reaching for their family. But he relied on his own hard work to accumulate such an astonishing foundation. Now he had the capital to be proud. Wolf King rolled his eyes and said, Little Qin Zi, since we can't get the flame of heavenly thunder, let's go crazy again before we leave. Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked, How? Fatso, Lu Hong, and the pangolin also looked at it suspiciously. Wolf King said, Loot the treasures of the 3 super tribes. Damn, isn't this too crazy? Fatso's eyes widened and he laughed loudly. But Fat Lord likes it, so it's decided happily. Qin Feiyang frowned. Wolf King said, What? Are you afraid? I'm not afraid. I'm just thinking that the treasures of the 3 super tribes might not be as much as the warehouse of the trading pavilion. Qin Feiyang said. How is that possible? Wolf King rolled his eyes at him. Chapter 397. What do you mean? Wolf King asked. Although the strength of the Meng family is not as good as the 3 super tribes, the Meng family has an innate advantage. They dominate the area, and no one will compete with them. No matter who gets the medicinal herbs, they will eventually fall into the hands of the Meng family. Fatso explained. And here, in addition to the 3 super tribes, there were countless other tribes of various sizes. If each tribe divided a little, there would naturally not be many medicinal herbs. Of course, the resources in this area of Sky Thunder City were richer than those in White Fox City. It was also worth a risk. A super tribe can't compare. But the treasures of the 3 super tribes added together will definitely not be too bad. In a word, do you want to do it or not? Wolf King shouted in high spirits. Nonsense, of course we'll do it. Fatso roared. Lu Hong looked at Fatso and Wolf King, shook her head and smiled. Anyway, I can't help much, do as you like. This king doesn't care either. The pangolin followed. Now, only Qin Feiyang had not expressed his opinion. Everyone looked at him, waiting for his decision. Because only his words were useful. Qin Feiyang glanced at the 2 men and 2 beasts, made up his mind and nodded. Okay, let's go crazy again. Fatso and Wolf King immediately cheered. Next, several people began to discuss. Soon, Qin Feiyang left the castle alone and walked into the alchemy room, staring at the moaning snake cauldron. Do you want to take it away or not? He hesitated. It's better not to anger the pagoda master, so as to avoid complications. Finally, he resolutely erased the blood contract of the moaning snake cauldron and turned to walk out of the alchemy room. First, he was a person who knew how to repay kindness. The pagoda master had saved him, so he could not do such a thing. Second, the pagoda master was too strong. If he angered her, he would definitely suffer. Qin Feiyang walked out of the alchemy room and walked towards the stairs. Brother Su, what are you doing? Seeing this, Mu Qing and her brother looked at him in confusion. I need to go out for a while, Qin Feiyang said without looking back. Then he walked down the stairs. No matter what purpose Mu Qing and her sister had, it had nothing to do with him now. The Pill Pagoda had a total of 10 levels. Other than the top floor, the other 9 floors each had 10 alchemy rooms. Qin Feiyang arrived at the 9th floor. He glanced at the 10 stone doors and frowned. Were Luo Yi and the other 2 here? He pondered for a moment. He walked in front of a stone door and knocked on it forcefully. Very soon, the stone door opened. A strange face entered Qin Feiyang's sight. This person was about 18 or 19 years old, and was about 1.7 meters tall. He looked very ordinary and had a black mole the size of a mung bean on his chin. Qin Feiyang had never seen him before. However, this person knew Qin Feiyang. When he saw Qin Feiyang come to his door, he was stunned for a moment before he was overjoyed. Senior Brother Su, why are you here? What's the matter? By the way, let me introduce myself. My name is Su Shan. I'm from the Su tribe. Please take care of me in the future, Senior Brother Su. Su Shan was very excited, his saliva flying. The person in front of him was an alchemy monster with a level 20 spiritual force. He was also the last disciple of the pagoda master. He actually took the initiative to come to him. Was he going to be lucky? The Su tribe? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Why did it sound familiar? Right. Wasn't the second-grade alchemy fire that Wolf King and Fatso snatched from the Su tribe? It was really fate. His eyes flashed and he said with a smile. Do you know where Luo Yi and the other 2 are? Su Shan nodded and said, I know, they're next door. Qin Feiyang said in surprise. So you're also a level 10 spiritual force? Su Shan laughed dryly and said, I don't have this talent. I'm only a level 9 spiritual force. That's not bad. Qin Feiyang nodded and said with a faint smile. Take me to them. Okay. Su Shan walked out of the alchemy room and knocked on the 3 stone doors one after another. Not long after, the stone doors opened one after another. Luo Yi, Shi Yun, and Yan Shi stood at the door respectively. When they saw Qin Feiyang, they couldn't help but frown. Luo Yi said angrily, What are you doing here? To talk to you guys. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, reached out and pushed Luo Yi away, and walked into Luo Yi's alchemy room. Luo Yi raised his eyebrows and shouted, This is my alchemy room. What right do you have to barge in? Get out of here immediately. Qin Feiyang said lightly, You should know my current identity. I can make you get out of the Pill Pagoda, with one word. Luo Yi's gaze trembled. Yes. This person was now the last disciple of the pagoda master. He couldn't afford to offend him. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. Come in, I have something to say. Su Shan was the first to run in. Yan Shi and Shi Yun looked at each other, frowned slightly, and also walked into the alchemy room. Qin Feiyang turned to look at the four of them and said, "Close the stone door." Shi Yun waved his hand, and the stone door quickly closed. Then, with a puff, he opened his folding fan, waved it slowly and said with a smile, "I wonder what Brother Su has to teach me?" "I don't dare to teach you. I just want to ask Luo Yi and Yin Shi. Did you kneel and crawl 3 laps on the square? Did you bark like a dog?" Qin Feiyang said lightly. Luo Yi and Shi Yun's bodies stiffened. Su Shan looked at the two of them and hurriedly said, "Senior Brother Su, they didn't crawl." "Presumptuous. Do you have the right to speak here?" Luo Yi and Shi Yun shouted angrily, killing intent flashing in their eyes. Su Shan's neck shrank, and there was a trace of fear on his face. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile, "This is your fault. What I hate the most is people who have no integrity. Brother Su, where it's possible to let people off, let them off. Why be so calculative?" Shi Yun laughed. Qin Feiyang turned to look at him and said with a smile, "Do you know what kind of people I hate? It's people like you who hide a knife behind a smile." The smile on Shi Yun's face froze. Qin Feiyang glanced at Shi Yun with disdain, then glanced at the four of them and said, "I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. Tell me, where are the treasures of your tribe?" The four of them were stunned. Su Shan said in surprise, "Senior Brother Su, did I hear wrongly?" Qin Feiyang said, "You didn't hear wrongly. I want to know the exact location of your tribe's treasures. Only by knowing the location would it be easier to make a move. If they were to look everywhere, not only would it be a waste of time, it would also be more dangerous." Shi Yun frowned. "Su Ping, what do you mean? Do you want to rob the treasures of our 4 tribes? You are really smart." Qin Feiyang laughed. The four of them were instantly enraged. "I really admire you. Not only are you talented in alchemy, your guts are also unparalleled." Shi Yun sneered, and there was a hint of sarcasm in his words. "Thank you." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, "Can you say it now?" "Dream on. I still have to refine pills. Forgive me for not accompanying you." Shi Yun said coldly, and turned to open the door to leave. "Do you think you can still walk out after entering this door?" Qin Feiyang smiled coldly and waved his hand. Instantly, the four of them felt dizzy. The next moment, they appeared in an extremely unfamiliar place. There was a white wolf, a pangolin, a round fatso, and a beautiful woman. "Where is this?" Shi Yun and the other two were bewildered. Su Shan looked around. When he saw the fatso and wolf king, his eyes were filled with rage. "It's you guys. I recognize you. You are the thieves who stole my tribe's alchemy fire." Hearing Su Shan shout, Shi Yun and the other two also looked at the fatso and wolf king in surprise. They were exactly the same as the portraits on the wanted posters. Could it be? They abruptly turned around and looked at Qin Feiyang. Their faces were filled with disbelief. Qin Feiyang said lightly, "Yes, I am the Qin Feiyang you are looking for." "Damn it. It's you. Give us back our alchemy fire." Luo Yi, Su Shan, and Yin Shi shouted one after another. However, after Shi Yun learned of Qin Feiyang's true identity, not only was he not angry, but he looked at Qin Feiyang curiously. He smiled faintly and said, "Not only did you deceive all of us, but you also deceived the pagoda master. Brother Qin, you are really unfathomable." Qin Feiyang was stunned. This person's reaction was too unexpected. Shouldn't he hate him as much as Luo Yi and the other two? "Shi Yun, is there something wrong with your brain? He stole our alchemy fire and you are still so friendly. What do you mean?" Luo Yi and Yin Shi shouted. "Don't get it wrong. Your tribe's alchemy fire was stolen by him. My Purple Sun tribe's alchemy fire was won by him. There is a good saying, if you agree to bet, you must be willing to lose. My Purple Sun tribe can still afford to lose." Shi Yun smiled faintly. Qin Feiyang was surprised. The Purple Sun tribe's style of doing things made him look at them in a new light. Spineless. Spineless. Luo Yi and Yin Shi cursed. As for Su Shan, the Su tribe's strength was not as strong as the Purple Sun tribe, so he did not dare to curse Shi Yun wantonly like Luo Yi and Yin Shi. However, There was a trace of disdain in his eyes. Brother Qin, before coming to Sky Thunder City, my father told me to say hello to you if I meet you. Shi Yin smiled. Qin Feiyang said, You really don't hate me at all? No. On the contrary, I want to sincerely invite you. Brother Qin, are you willing to join our Purple Sun tribe? If you are willing, you can be the high priest of the Purple Sun tribe. Shi Yin smiled. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Fatso and the others also looked at each other. Luo Yi Yinshi and Su Shan looked at each other with extremely gloomy eyes. The Purple Sun tribe really had a good plan. Qin Feiyang's talent in alchemy and martial arts was rare. Moreover, he was the last disciple of the Pagoda Master. His future was limitless. If he joined the Purple Sun tribe, the Purple Sun tribe would definitely rise to a higher level because of him. At that time, even the Ming King tribe and the Black Tortoise tribe would be trampled underfoot, unable to make a comeback. This kind of thing was absolutely not allowed. Luo Yi's eyes trembled as he said, Brother Qin, I also sincerely invite you to be the high priest of the Ming King tribe. Yanshi added, The Black Tortoise tribe also invites you. Although they had a grudge against Qin Feiyang, they could only compromise for the tribe's interests. Shi Yin raised his eyebrows subtly. These two really knew how to join in the fun. Su Shan glanced at the three of them, his eyes flickering. He also wanted to take the opportunity to pull Qin Feiyang into the Su tribe. However, compared to the three super tribes, the Su tribe had no advantage at all. Senior Brother Qin, if you are willing to join the Su tribe, I will go back and advise father to give you the position of chief. Su Shan gritted his teeth and said in a deep voice. He couldn't find any other conditions that could move Qin Feiyang, so this was the only thing he could think of. Everyone looked at him in shock. Even giving up the position of chief, was there a mistake? Was this guy crazy? Qin Feiyang glanced at the four of them and said jokingly, After hearing what you said, I feel a little embarrassed to kill you. What? He's planning to kill us. The four of them trembled. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.